Chapter 5376. Dear host, Fictional really put in a lot of effort to prepare this. The forest is filled with traps that are under his control. Tao Jia and Chen Kangol are going to be tortured this time. I checked the trap just now. It feels like a pair of disassembled items are still a pair. Tang Gui didn't know what kind of trap it was. She had already found an excellent place to hide. She would know what kind of trap it was in a while. Besides, Chen Kangol and Tao Jia were already in the forest. They planned to break some branches. Their mission today was to carve many words on the branches and let them float out with the sea. The two unknowingly walked a little too deep. As they spoke, they didn't notice where they were and stepped on the trap that Fictional had arranged. At that moment, Chen Kangol's body was sinking. He instinctively grabbed Tao Jiajia's hand, but he didn't expect Tao Jiajia's situation to be the opposite. She stepped on a rope and was hung on a tree. Chen Kangol lost his balance and fell. He thought that he would fall flat on his face, but he didn't expect that halfway down, he felt a pulling force at his ankle. He looked over with difficulty and found that there was a rope around his ankle. In the end, there were ropes around both of their ankles. One was hanging upside down in the pit, while the other was hanging upside down on a tree. They were both using the same rope. This pit was very big. Not only was it big, it was also a little deep. What made Chen Kangol even more fearful was that there were actually some sharpened wooden sticks in the pit. Looking at these wooden sticks, his scalp turned cold. If he fell down like this, he would definitely die. Jia, pull me up. Tao Jia was a little dizzy from the torment. She calmed down when she heard Chen Kangol's voice. Kangol, the rope is wrapped around my leg. I can't pull you up. Kangol, don't move. If you move again, I will be pierced by the sharp things above. It turned out that the top of the pit was also covered with sharpened wooden sticks. She didn't know who did it, but she knew that if she went up a little, those things would definitely pierce her body. Fortunately, there was a tree beside her. She could hug the tree tightly and wouldn't be pulled up by Chen Kangol's weight. Actually, she didn't know that Fictional had deliberately designed this so that the two of them could have a chance to communicate. Then call for help. At this moment, Chen Kangol was already sweating profusely. Because he was hanging upside down, he couldn't raise his voice and shouted very softly. Tao Jia was about the same as him. In such a position, it was tiring to shout for a while, and his voice was getting softer and softer. Konglu, this won't work. Chen Kangol also knew. Let's shout again. He knew that they had fallen into a desperate situation. As long as Tao Jia could land on the ground, he could also be saved. If he fell into this pit, Tao Jia would also die. Who was it that came up with such a vicious trap? If he had known earlier, he would have been more careful and not walked so deep. However, the trees outside were very tall, and there was no way to find the little tree, so they could only walk inside. He felt that this trap must have been from hunting in the past. At this moment, Tao Jiajia's voice sounded. Konglo, I heard someone coming. We've been saved. Chen Kangol couldn't see above and was very happy. Quick, call for help. Don't miss it. Help. Tao Jiajia shouted. Hearing the sound of walking in the grass gradually coming from afar, she calmed down and hurriedly looked around. Not long after, under the glossy tree, a very thickly dressed person came. His face was covered. Chapter 5377. Tao Jiajia was stunned when she saw the man's attire. Her joy slowly dissipated as her scalp turned cold. The man had a very long knife in his hand. He had already walked to the pit and was looking inside. Chen Kangol felt it and hurriedly supported himself. He looked up and saw a masked man. The words of help were stuck in his throat. His intuition told him that this person wasn't a kind person. In less than 10 seconds, he still called for help. Either both of you die or only one can live. The hoarse voice made the two of them suck in a breath of cold air. Only one of them could survive. In their minds, they subconsciously wanted to survive. Here's the knife. Under Chen Kangle's incredulous expression, he heard Mu Xiaoning hand the knife to Tao Jijia. At the same time, a strange voice sounded, "Cut the rope around your ankle and you'll be saved." Tao Jijia's hand trembled subconsciously, but she still gripped the knife tightly. The tree was very smooth. She had tried it just now. She couldn't bend her body to untie the rope with her strength. Furthermore, she had been hanging for so long and shouting for so long. Even holding the knife was a little difficult for her. In order to lose weight, she had been on a diet and didn't have much strength. If not for her tight grip on the tree trunk, with her weight, she would have been pulled up and stabbed to death by the sharp wooden branches. After Mu Xiaoning handed the knife, he didn't stay on the spot. After all, no one knew what would happen. In their positions, their cries for help couldn't travel far. After shouting for a while, they would run out of strength. Anyway, one of them would die. When the two of them didn't return, someone would come looking for them. They wouldn't be able to find this place for a while. The person who would die should be Chen Kangle. One of the main people who organized the game was Chen Kangle. He deserved it. The masked man had already left. Tao Jijia was more silent than before. This was because she was about to be saved. As long as she used the long knife to cut the rope, she would at most suffer minor injuries from the fall. If she didn't cut it, she didn't know how long she would be hanging here. Jia, what are you thinking? At this moment, Chen Kangle was actually terrified. This was the first time his life was controlled by a woman. It would be strange if he didn't panic. He knew that Tao Jijia liked his money. He didn't mind. After all, Tao Jijia was very beautiful. He had never thought of marrying Tao Jijia. What he liked about Tao Jijia the most was that she knew her place. After taking his money, she would obediently be his woman. She would not be like other women who would bite off more than they could chew and seek their next target. Therefore, even if he didn't marry her, he would still benefit from it. However, now that his life was in Tao Jijia's hands, he panicked. He didn't know what choice Tao Jijia would make. Jijia, let's wait for the others to find us. Alright, let's wait. Tao Jijia answered quickly, but Chen Kangle could tell that Tao Jijia wasn't as flustered as before. This wasn't a good sign. He decided that he had to win Tao Jijia over no matter what. Jijia, let's get engaged when we get out of here. Engagement? That's right. We've been talking for so long, and now we've gone through thick and thin together. If we can get out of here, we must get engaged. We've gone through great disasters, and I believe that you'll always be by my side when we face all kinds of difficulties in life. No matter what, he had to stabilize Tao Jijia first. Alright. Tao Jijia answered quickly. This was what she had been dreaming of. However, she was very clear-headed. She knew that Chen Kangle was only making this promise because he was afraid that she would cut the rope. If they could really get out of here, Chen Kangle would probably get engaged to her. The premise was that she didn't cut the rope and someone came to save them. If they were to continue hanging here and no one came to find them, wouldn't she have to die with Chen Kangle? Chapter 5378. Dear host, what are you doing? The system was speechless. You threw out an array disk, didn't you? What array disk? Soundproof, hallucinatory, to hide them. Tangua did not hide anything and said coldly, in case someone really discovers this place. Anyway, isn't this a game? I'm watching, they won't die. Let's play then. The system did not say anything. Wasn't she imitating the tone of those people? Speaking of which, those people were lucky. If the dear host wanted them to live, they would definitely live. However, what they thought was a small game caused the original owner to die unexpectedly. Not only that, they all ran away after the incident and never reflected on their sins. The heavens must have opened their eyes. Otherwise, they would not have been taken care of by Shouting in the end. Even if Bai Tian did not die, wouldn't she have to continue receiving psychological treatment in the end? After putting the array disc away, Tang Gua took out a paper puppet. Brother Qi Xiao had made her various versions of the paper puppet. Back then, she was still worried about how to finish making so many, but now, they came in handy. After all, she could not keep guarding this place forever. Who knew how long this would last? Not only would she be bored, she might not know what was going on outside. If Shouting immediately found his next target and did something bad, then there would really be no turning back. Also, she had been outside all this time. If she stayed here for 2 or 3 days, others would suspect her. Therefore, it was fine to just watch the paper puppet. Tang Gua dripped a drop of blood on the paper puppet. You can temporarily become a little mouse and bite off those sharp things in the pit. Anyway, you can do as you see fit. Just let Chin Kangle live. If they persist until the final critical line, put them down. If not, when the rope is broken, remove the array disc. If Tao Jiejia would rather stay hanging than cut off the rope, then she would be convinced. However, based on her many years of experience, there were very few people who would give up their own lives to save others at a time like this. Although there were many times when people would subconsciously save others, when they calmed down, humans were very afraid of death. How good was that person? How much did she have to like that person to give up her only hope in life and be willing to wait for death with him? The paper puppet had already turned into a small mouse, and it quickly burrowed into the bushes and disappeared. Tang Gua stood up and walked towards the other side of the forest, which was the seaside. The system told her that Shouting had left from this direction. She casually picked some wild vegetables in the forest and pretended to walk to the beach unknowingly. As expected, she saw Shouting staring at the sponge in a daze. Shouting's back was facing her, but the sound of her footsteps alerted him instantly. He instinctively turned around and relaxed when he saw that it was Tang Gua. Tang Gua walked to Shouting with 2 bundles of wild vegetables. Shouting, why are you slacking off here? Shouting paused and raised his black hat a little, revealing his slightly dazed eyes. He looked at Tang Gua, not expecting her to ask such a question. For a moment, he didn't know how to answer. You're not working, and you still want to eat later. Shouting glanced at the 2 bundles of wild vegetables in Tang Gua's hands and finally said, let's get some wind first. Chapter 53-79. Eating wild vegetables all day. Salt can be extracted from the sea, but I don't know where meat comes from. I don't know how long I can last if this continues. Shouting fell into deep thought. Eating wild vegetables all day wasn't good. He sized up Tang Gua. She was indeed a little too thin. If she didn't get protein, her body would easily have problems. He had all kinds of delicious food in the secret room, but if he took them out, his identity would definitely be exposed. Then, all his preparations would be ruined. Why don't we walk around the beach and pick up some seafood? Tang Gua said before Shouting could say anything. Shouting subconsciously agreed. Okay. Tang Gua put the wild vegetables aside, took off her shoes, rolled up her pants and sleeves, and went into the water to search. Shouting saw this and quickly followed, a little afraid that something would happen to her. An hour later, Fictional found a lot of crabs. Looking at the crabs tied up in grass, although they weren't very big, he felt a kind of joy that he had never felt before. Fictional didn't expect that catching crabs would make him so happy. By now, the two had put on their shoes and socks. Tangua said, "Today's harvest was good. Let's go back." The smile on Fictional's face disappeared. He stared at the crabs on the ground. Go back. Go back and share the crabs with them. He had painstakingly caught them for her. Why should he share them with those people? Fictional took out a flint from his wallet. Find a place to roast them. He looked straight at Tangua. This little is not enough to share. There's no need. Those people didn't deserve to eat the crabs he caught. Tangua didn't object. Fictional took her to a more remote place. He picked up some dry leaves and branches and started roasting the crabs. Tangua secretly took out a disc array and placed it around the two of them to prevent anyone from noticing the fireworks. System, fine, host, please indulge him. Fictional was happy again. Catching crabs, roasting crabs, and eating crabs could be so happy. Was it because of her? Yesterday in the secret room, he tried to use his phone to contact Blackie, but for some reason, Blackie did not reply. It was as if he had never received a message from him. Therefore, for the time being, he did not know why Tangua was here. Fictional had never suspected that there was something wrong with Tangua. In fact, her arrival had changed his plan. He had also thought about it. Once he was done, he would get in touch with the outside world and confess what he had done. When those people came, they made the entire town, including him and those people, disappear. He did not feel happy about being reborn. Since he could return to the time before this game, why couldn't he have done it earlier? Unfortunately, he returned to the day after his family's accident, and the darkness of his life began. If he had done it earlier, he would have been able to change even more things. Being reborn was not a blessing for him, but a form of torture for him. Fictional, can we still get out? Fictional's hand that was holding the crab paused. His eyes were filled with certainty. Yes. You can definitely get out. He already had a plan. You don't usually talk. Since you're saying this, you're definitely not comforting me, Tangua said with a smile. Fictional was infected. Did his words make people trust him so much? Time passed slowly. Tangua and Fictional carried the wild vegetables back to the town. Tao Jia and Chen were still hanging on the rope. They were tired and sleepy, and their mouths were dry. Kangol, I really want to drink water. Why haven't they found us yet? Chapter 5380. Jia, don't worry. It's only been half a day. They'll think that we're outside. Why would they look for us? They realize that we're missing. It should be because we didn't return at night. If they want to find us, they'll probably look for us during the day tomorrow. Chen Kangol comforted her. Jia, hang in there. Think about our future. We can't give up. Tao Jia didn't plan to cut the rope. She didn't want to give up until the very end. As long as she accompanied Chen Kangol through this, she would definitely be able to enter the Chen family. As for Chen Kangol, he would also treat her as his most trusted person. It was only half a day. She could indeed wait. She didn't eat or drink for 3 days. That should be the limit, right? Then she would give it a try. If it really didn't work in the end, she could only regret it. Chen Kangol wanted to live. She wanted to live too. It was better for one person to live than both of them dying, right? Kangol, how are you? I'm fine. As long as you're fine, I'm fine. Tao Jiejia's mind became clearer when she heard such gentle words. When had Chen Kangol ever spoken to her so gently? He was just afraid of death. Chen Kangol looked into the pit and saw the sharpened wooden strips. On top of the wooden strips, there was a mouse gnawing on them. After half a day, the mouse had already gnawed off a wooden strip. Under such circumstances, although he was coaxing Tao Jiejia, he didn't place all his hopes on her. After all, Tao Jiejia wanted his money. Who wouldn't want to live when their lives were threatened? Chen Kangol was looking forward to the mouse gnawing off those sharp wooden strips. When Tao Jiejia couldn't hold on anymore, he would have a chance to live too. Tao Jiejia didn't know this. She didn't want to talk at all, let alone shout for help. She didn't even have the strength. After hanging for half a day, she was already dizzy. The sky gradually darkened. The students who went out also returned to the town with their gains. Because of the two strange things that had happened before, no one dared to touch the things in the town for the time being. They all obediently looked for food and brought it back. When they were counting the people, they didn't see Tao Jiejia and Chen Kangol. They frowned. Why aren't they back yet? I don't know. Maybe they were too excited and forgot the time. It's possible. They've always been like that. Let's wait a little longer. Maybe he'll be back soon. Everyone took out weeds and cooked them. The people who went to look for seafood before didn't find anything. They could only eat unpalatable wild vegetables. After not seeing any oil for the past 2 days, everyone had lost weight. Moreover, their faces had become slightly sallow, and their strength had become much weaker. When they walked, their legs were weak. The sky was completely dark, but Chen Kangol and Tao Jiejia still hadn't returned. Only then did everyone realize that something was wrong. Did something happen to the two of them? A little girl said fearfully. No matter how playful they are, it's impossible for them not to come back at this time. Needless to say, the others also had the same thought. By the way, didn't you guys go to the beach with them? Wei Yan felt warm at this time. One of the male students replied, but when we arrived at the forest, Chen Kangol said that he and Tao Jiejia would go into the forest to pick up branches. He said that he wanted to carve words on the branches. Perhaps the people outside could see the contents of the branches and we could be saved. After that, the few of us went to the beach. We didn't meet them after that. Maybe they were looking for seafood and often changed places, so we didn't meet them. Chapter 5381. Shall we go too? Tang Guo called out to Mu Shaoning, who was in a daze. She noticed that his gaze was fixed on Wei Yan and Bai Tian's backs. She knew that Mu Shaoning had his eyes on them and was planning to do something. She had no intention of stopping him. As long as Mu Shaoning didn't kill anyone, he could do whatever he wanted. Weren't these students here to play games? Since they were already here, of course they had to play to their heart's content. Madam Host, Mu Shaoning has pigeon eggs in his pocket. He's currently observing the environment. He'll probably pretend that he picked up these eggs when he's at a suitable place. Then I'll stay away from him in case he can't find a chance. System, is this really okay? Not long after, Mu Shaoning suddenly called Tang Guo over. Then, in front of Tang Guo, he parted the grass and saw a nest on a small branch. There were a few eggs in the nest. Madam Host, this guy is so serious. He even made a nest. Tang Guo watched as Mu Shaoning picked up the pigeon eggs and shook them gently in his hand. Then, he said to her in all seriousness, there are no birds in them. They're edible. Let's eat outside in the afternoon. There's too little food. There's not enough to share. Mu Shaoning put the pigeon eggs into his wallet one by one. Come out with me in the afternoon. Tang Guo replied, okay. Don't tell others. There's not enough to share, Mu Xiaoning emphasized seriously. Tang Guo hurriedly agreed. She had eaten too much to tell those people that she picked up pigeon eggs. There were only a few eggs. If word got out, who knew who would eat them? At this moment, Mu Xiaoning thought of something and the corners of his lips curled up. Actually, it wasn't that he couldn't let those people see. They were still considered united now. If something good appeared, the distribution of resources would definitely be unequal. Then, wouldn't that be an opportunity for conflict? As his fingers touched the smooth pigeon eggs, a perfect plan appeared in Mu Xiaoning's mind. He wanted that group of people to fall out with each other. Tang Guo felt a malicious aura from Mu Xiaoning, but it wasn't directed at her. When it was close to noon, no one was able to find any traces of Qin Kangol and Tao Jijia. They could only give up and return. Let's look for it in the afternoon. If we really can't find it, there's nothing we can do about it. Du Li said. Receiving everyone's agreement, Bai Tian also sighed. In the afternoon, Tang Guo and Mu Xiaoning went out to eat roasted pigeon eggs. That afternoon, when she returned to the town, she heard someone say that they had found 3 eggs. She took a look. Weren't those eggs? Wei Yan was analyzing the 3 eggs. It's possible that the chickens were raised by the people in town. Later, the people here disappeared, and the chickens ran into the forest to survive. I'm really lucky to have picked this up. The one who found the 3 eggs was a girl. She originally wanted to keep them for herself, but there were other people around at the time. Someone saw it, so she could only bring the eggs back. The girl was in a bad mood when she saw everyone surrounding the 3 eggs and looking at them with craving expressions. No matter what, she was the one who picked up the egg. These people's gazes were too strange. How are we going to split the eggs? Xiang Wen's face was also filled with longing. She hadn't eaten meat for a few days, and eating wild vegetables every day wasn't enough to fill her stomach. She really wanted to rush over and eat the eggs. When the girl heard Xiang Wen's words, her expression changed drastically. She couldn't help but glare at Xiang Wen. Xiang Wen was too hungry and didn't notice this at all. Everyone looked at Du Li. Du Li was also in a difficult position. Although he looked calm, he also wanted to eat the eggs. He, who had always been able to handle everything with ease, was silent for a long time. In the end, his gaze landed on the little girl. Everyone held their breaths, waiting for Du Li's next words. New website. To download the latest TXT ebook, please click to read this book on mobile. To post a review. To make it easier for you to read it next time, you can click on the Save button at the bottom to record this reading record. You will see it the next time you open the bookshelf. Please recommend this book to your friends. Thank you for your support. Chapter 5382. Weren't these students here to play games? Since they were already here, of course they had to play to their heart's content. Madam Host, Mu Xiaoning has pigeon eggs in his pocket. He's currently observing the environment. He'll probably pretend that he picked up these eggs when he's at a suitable place. Then I'll stay away from him in case he can't find a chance. System, is this really okay? Not long after, Mu Xiaoning suddenly called Tang Guo over. Then, in front of Tang Guo, he parted the grass and saw a nest on a small branch. There were a few eggs in the nest. Madam Host, this guy is so serious. He even made a nest. Tang Guo watched as Mu Xiaoning picked up the pigeon eggs and shook them gently in his hand. Then, he said to her seriously, there are no birds inside. It's edible. Let's eat outside in the afternoon. There's too little food. There's not enough to go around. Mu Xiaoning put the pigeon eggs into his pocket one by one. Come out with me in the afternoon. Tang Guo replied, okay. Don't tell others. There's not enough to go around, Mu Xiaoning emphasized seriously. Tang Guo hurriedly agreed. She had eaten too much to tell those people that she picked up pigeon eggs. There were only a few eggs. If word got out, who knew who would eat them? At this moment, Mu Xiaoning thought of something and the corners of his lips curled up. Actually, it wasn't that he couldn't let those people see. They were still considered united now. If something good appeared, the distribution of resources would definitely be unequal. Then, wouldn't that be an opportunity for conflict? His fingers touched the smooth pigeon eggs. A perfect plan had already appeared in Mu Xiaoning's mind. He wanted that group of people to fall out with each other. Tang Guo felt a malicious aura from Mu Xiaoning, but it wasn't directed at her. When it was almost noon, no one could find Chen Kangol and Tao Jiejia. They could only give up and return. Let's look around in the afternoon. If we really can't find them, there's nothing we can do, Du Li said. After receiving everyone's agreement, Bai Tian also sighed. In the afternoon, Tang Guo and Mu Xiaoning went out to eat roasted pigeon eggs. That afternoon, when she returned to the town, she heard someone say that they picked up 3 eggs. She took a look. Weren't those eggs? Wei Yan was analyzing the 3 eggs. It's possible that the chickens were raised by the people in town. Later, the people here disappeared, and the chickens ran into the forest to survive. I'm really lucky to have picked this up. The one who found the 3 eggs was a girl. She originally wanted to keep them for herself, but there were other people around at the time. Someone saw it, so she could only bring the eggs back. The girl was in a bad mood when she saw everyone surrounding the 3 eggs and looking at them with craving expressions. No matter what, she was the one who picked up the egg. These people's gazes were too strange. How do we divide the eggs? Xiang Wen's face was also full of longing. She hadn't eaten meat for several days, and eating wild vegetables every day wasn't enough to fill her stomach. She really wanted to rush over and eat the eggs. When the girl heard Xiang Wen's words, her expression changed drastically. She couldn't help but glare at Xiang Wen. Xiang Wen was too hungry to notice this. Everyone looked at Du Li. Du Li was also in a difficult position. Don't be fooled by his calm expression. In fact, he also wanted to eat the eggs. He, who had always been able to handle everything with ease, was silent for a long time. Finally, his gaze landed on the little girl. Everyone held their breaths, waiting for Du Li's next words. Digression, wrong message just now. Missed a chapter. Chapter 5383. Yun Lingling was the one who picked up the 3 eggs. So, does anyone have any objections to Yun Lingling taking 1 egg alone? Du Li looked at the crowd. Seeing everyone nod their heads, he heaved a sigh of relief. Right now, we're all on this isolated island. If we want to survive, we'll have to work together when the people outside find us. So, why don't we boil the remaining 2 eggs in the wild vegetables and make egg soup? Hearing that, the crowd was both expectant and disappointed. Seeing that no one objected, even Yun Lingling, who was a little unhappy, didn't say anything. Du Li knew that this was the best solution. With so many people boiling the eggs in the wild vegetables, there wouldn't be much left in the end. If he could, he wanted to eat it all for himself. Since no one has any objections, we'll boil the eggs tonight. Du Li placed one of the eggs into Yun Lingling's hands. This is what you deserve. You can do with it however you want. Under everyone's fervent gazes, Yun Lingling hurriedly put the egg into her clothes, planning to boil it. It wasn't easy to see different ingredients. If no one saw her picking up the eggs, all 3 eggs would be hers. Before long, everyone was busy cooking the wild vegetables. However, they didn't forget to look over at Yun Lingling. She had already boiled the eggs and was peeling them in the corner. Looking at the snow-white eggs, Yunlingling gulped. Just as she was about to take a bite, the eggs in her hands disappeared in the blink of an eye. By the time she found the eggs again, they had already been eaten by another girl. Yunlingling's eyes turned red immediately. She pounced over fiercely and shouted, "Chen Xiaohan, you're too much." Chen Xiaohan was pushed down by Yunlingling. Her mouth was still trying to reject her while she covered it with her hands. On the other hand, Yunlingling tried to pry her hands away, trying to get the eggs out of her mouth. For a moment, the two of them were locked in a fierce fight. Especially when Yunlingling saw that Chen Xiaohan had already swallowed the eggs, she was so angry that she burst into tears. Ignoring the crowd, she cried out loudly, "Chen Xiaohan, you're too much. You're really too much." She then slapped Chen Xiaohan's face with all her might, causing her cheeks to hurt. Chen Xiaohan had already swallowed the eggs. She immediately grabbed Yunlingling's hair. Seeing that the fight was getting more and more intense, Dooley reacted quickly and said, "Hurry and stop them. Hurry up and beat the eggs." Just then, Wei Yan reminded the girl who was stirring the soup. "The water is boiling." The girl who was stirring the wild vegetable soup was slightly stunned. She looked at Wei Yan with some confusion and then looked at the wild vegetable soup in the pot. The water was still a little bit away from boiling. However, she still subconsciously beat the 2 eggs into the wild vegetable soup and kept stirring it. There were 2 cauldrons here, both of which were found in the small town. They were both huge iron cauldrons. She cracked an egg in each pot, but there weren't many egg splashes. Smelling the delicious smell of the eggs, Wei Yan could not help but swallow her saliva. At this moment, she heard Yunlingling's voice, "Class rep, I don't care. I was the one who found the eggs, and now Chen Xiaohan stole my eggs. What should I do? You want me to stop? Fine, give me another egg." Dooley was in a difficult position. There were only a few dozen people to share 2 eggs. It was already very tight. Once the eggs were boiled, they would at most be able to taste a bit of the eggs. Not only would it not fill their stomachs, but it would also arouse their cravings. Chapter 53-84. If they were to share an egg, they might not even be able to smell it anymore. He looked at Chen Xiaohan, who was pinned to the ground and bitten by Yunlingling. "You guys are usually pretty close. How can you guys fight at a time like this? Chen Xiaohan, especially you. I've already arranged for everyone to share the egg soup. Why did you snatch Yunlingling's egg?" Chen Xiaohan's face was filled with a row of gums. Yunlingling's bite was vicious as she pursed her lips. "What do you mean by good? If we were good, would she have eaten it all by herself? In the past, whenever I had good food, would always share it with her. Whenever I had good food, I would always bring it to her. Cosmetics, skincare products, perfume. Which one of them wasn't given to her? Now, she could eat an egg, but she didn't think about me. She didn't even ask me anything. I finally understood. What kind of friends are we? She doesn't even think about me. I've been here for a few days now and there hasn't been any news from the outside. Who knows how long more we'll be here. Of course, I need to replenish my body so that I can survive the people outside. I don't want to die." Chen Xiaohan's words made everyone fall silent. Especially those who were in the same dorm as them, they all knew about this. Especially since Chen Xiaohan would often help Yunlingling get food and other small tasks. "Chen Xiaohan, you're disgusting." Yunlingling was a little agitated. Chen Xiaohan was completely indifferent. Who's the disgusting one? Everyone knows that. Bite me to death if you can. Who knows when we'll be able to get out of this godforsaken place. A few male classmates pulled Yun Lingling away. As for Yun Lingling's request to share an egg with her, of course, that was impossible. Yun Lingling, I'm sorry, but the egg is already in the pot. Wei Yan walked over and patted her shoulder with a smile. You can have 2 more bowls of soup later. Everyone else can only have 1 bowl. Yun Lingling was furious. Thinking about the egg from before, she almost choked. From today onwards, he and Chen Xiaohan were irreconcilable. Yun Lingling compromised and drank 2 bowls of soup in the end. Chen Xiaohan was punished by Dooley to not have dinner tonight because she snatched the food. She didn't have any objections. An egg was much better than the clear and watery wild vegetable egg soup. Tenghua sat in the corner and witnessed this. She glanced at Mu Xiaoning from the corner of her eye. Although he was expressionless and looked the same as before, she could tell that he was in a good mood. 3 eggs were enough to split this group of people. He should feel a sense of accomplishment, right? She believed that there would be more such incidents in the future. Tonight should be the only night where they weren't that hungry since coming to the island, right? At least she had some soup with eggs. The next morning, everyone was awakened by hunger. Perhaps the wild vegetable egg drop soup from yesterday had made them feel that it was a little delicious, so they went to the forest early in the morning to try their luck. However, Mu Xiaoning had no intention of giving them eggs today. He had prepared another gift. He didn't go to the forest, but made an excuse to go to the beach. No one asked him, as they were used to him being alone. In fact, he had disguised himself and ran into the forest. He had been preparing for this day for a long time and had even done special training for it. Hence, walking in the grass was like walking on flat ground. He knew that Wei Yan and Bai Tian were inseparable and would usually walk together. The students who entered the forest today all had different thoughts. They didn't want to be in a group with too many people, so they tacitly went their separate ways. Chapter 5385. Everyone was looking forward to finding something good and eating it alone. At this moment, there was no one around Wei Yan and Bai Tian. Mu Xiaoning played the recording he had prepared and the 2 of them immediately heard the rooster crowing. They followed the sound and ran in that direction. Mu Xiaoning planned to lead the 2 of them to the trap and then hide. The trees here were huge and the grass was very thick. He was already familiar with this place and it was easy to hide. Bai Tian, hurry up. We won't be able to catch up later. Wei Yan urged. Bai Tian was really too slow. If they could catch the rooster today, even if they couldn't eat it alone, it wouldn't be a problem to share the drumstick. At the thought of the drumstick, the 2 of them salivated a little faster. With their family conditions, how could they covet a chicken so much? They felt sad just thinking about it. The soup made from a chicken would definitely not be the egg drop soup from yesterday. It would definitely be enough for them to have a full meal. Not only was Bai Tian slow, but she also couldn't stand the grass that kept hitting her body. Occasionally, her face would hurt, so she walked very carefully. She knew that she couldn't catch up, so she said to Wei Yan, you go faster. You go first. I'll catch up slowly. Wei Yan frowned. Seeing that Bai Tian was still using a stick to dig the grass on both sides, she knew that she couldn't rely on her. She turned and chased in the direction of the rooster's crowing. Bai Tian looked at Wei Yan, who disappeared in an instant, and sighed deeply. She knew that she was a burden. These messy grass were really troublesome. There were many small wounds on her hands and face. She didn't know if she was disfigured or not. She wondered if the people outside knew that they were missing. Even if they knew, would they be able to find this place quickly and save them? If she didn't hesitate at the beginning and persuade Dooley and the rest not to play this game, perhaps they wouldn't have to go through all this. Actually, the game that Dooley and the rest came up with was really boring and meaningless. However, Wei Yan said that it was better to have less trouble. Anyway, it had nothing to do with them. Dooley was the young master of the Du family. If they accidentally ruined his business, it might affect the cooperation of the company later. After weighing the pros and cons, she felt that it was true. Dooley and the others had emphasized many times that this was just a small game and there would be no danger. Tang Guo would also get a bonus. She was so short of money, so this generous bonus should be enough for her to cover the expenses of the whole university and even improve the living standards of her family. As Bai Tian walked, she was in a daze. She wondered if this was the cycle of karma that people talked about. If she had persuaded him or not come, then none of this would have happened. Ah! A scream interrupted Bai Tian's thoughts. She recognized the voice as Wei Yan's. She hurriedly chased after the voice and shouted, "Wei Yan, what happened to you?" "Wei Yan. I'm here, Bai Tian, I'm here. I fell into a pit and was bitten by something." Bai Tian could hear the pain in Wei Yan's voice. She hurried over. Soon, she found a pit. After pushing aside some grass, she saw Wei Yan. Of course, she also saw the other situation in the pit. A snake was wrapped around Wei Yan's leg. Wei Yan also noticed it and screamed in fear. "Bai Tian, quickly pull me up." This pit wasn't shallow. Bai Tian didn't know what to do for a moment. She hurriedly looked around, hoping to find a tool. However, other than the grass, there wasn't even a decent branch. Chapter 5386. Bai Tian. Wei Yan saw that Bai Tian was in a daze. "Hurry up and find a rope. This snake has been coiling around my leg and even bit me just now. It's not poisonous." Bai Tian was a little flustered. "There's no life here. There are no branches either. Why don't I call for help and get the other students to come and help?" Wei Yan's forehead was covered in cold sweat. "Can you guarantee that after you call for help, you can still find this direction?" Bai Tian was silent. No. Therefore, she couldn't call for help. She wouldn't be able to find it later. "Are there stones above?" Bai Tian quickly looked. "Yes." "Throw 2 stones down first. I'll deal with this snake first." Wei Yan was also afraid, but her strong desire to survive made her have to be strong. Anyway, Bai Tian was unreliable. She was just a delicate girl who didn't know anything and was a little naive. Bai Tian did as she was told. However, when she went to pick up the stones, she realized that there were 2 snakes around her. These 2 snakes didn't coil around the stones but were not far from them. If she reached out, she might be bitten. This snake had color. She didn't have any common sense. It was most likely poisonous. If she was bitten and didn't inject the serum in time, she might die. Bai Tian trembled. "Wei Yan," 2 snakes suddenly appeared beside the stones. "They are very colorful. They might be poisonous." As soon as Bai Tian finished speaking, Wei Yan stopped talking. The snake that bit her wasn't poisonous and didn't have any color. However, she felt that her body was in good condition. Even if it was poisonous, it probably wasn't very poisonous and wouldn't kill her. "I'll see if I can lure them away first and then pick up the stones." Bai Tian's voice sounded again. This made Wei Yan heave a sigh of relief. She thought that Bai Tian would give up on saving her. Thinking about it, according to Bai Tian's personality, she wouldn't think that far and wouldn't leave her in the lurch. "Be careful." "Got it." "Are you okay?" "Wei Yan, I'm fine for now. You can find some thin branches and take them away." "I'll try." I'll get 2 branches from the trees. She couldn't take down branches that could bear the weight of an adult, but she could still break branches that could take away 2 snakes. Wei Yan waited while Bai Tian nervously broke the branches. Mu Xiaoning, who was hiding in the dense foliage, was watching this scene. He was the one who had asked someone to dig the pit, and he was the one who had placed the snake inside. It wasn't very poisonous, just a little bit. It wasn't fatal. The 2 poisonous snakes outside were also released by him. They were extremely poisonous. The reason for this was similar to Tao Jijia and Chen Kangle's situation. If Bai Tian gave up on saving Wei Yan could still live. At that time, the 2 of them would turn against each other. If Bai Tian saved Wei Yan, then he would set up another trap. Anyway, there was still plenty of time. This Wei Yan looked a little smart. She usually didn't speak much, but she was very scheming. If Bai Tian was in danger, would she save her? It should be very interesting to make Bai Tian's outlook on life suffer a blow. Tang Gua was also observing the situation through the system. She was not far away. After all, there were venomous snakes over there. If Bai Tian was bitten, she would be able to deliver the medicine in time to save her life. Bai Tian returned with a tree branch. With trembling hands, she pushed the 2 venomous snakes far away. After she was done, she was sweating profusely, but her face was full of joy. Wei Yan, I've pushed the venomous snakes away. I'll throw a stone down for you now. Oh right, I thought of a way. I'll rub these grass together later. I've seen popular science on TV before. Grass can be made into ropes. When the time comes, I'll pull you down. Chapter 5387. Wei Yan was a little happy. Okay. Wei Yan, who got the stone, smashed the snake to death. An hour later, Bai Tian helped the injured Wei Yan back to the town. At this time, there was no one in the town. Bai Tian looked at Wei Yan's red and swollen leg. It didn't look too serious and she was relieved. Wei Yan, how are you? I'm fine. It shouldn't be a very poisonous snake. It's slightly poisonous. That's good. Why don't I help you suck it? Wei Yan didn't refuse. She really couldn't do it herself. When everyone came back, they found out that Wei Yan was injured. Of course, they didn't find any eggs, but someone caught crabs by the sea. However, there were only 2 or 3 small crabs. These things didn't have much meat and were basically inedible. But no matter how small the meat was, it was still meat. The crabs were still used to make soup, and the person who found them could have won alone. Tao Jijia and Chen Kangle were hanging upside down. 2 days had passed and they were both in a semi-conscious state. Many of the sharp wooden sticks in the pit had been gnawed off by the rats. Chen Kangle felt more and more relaxed. When all the wooden sticks were bitten off, he asked Tao Jijia to cut the rope. Tao Jijia was with him at a critical time. He wouldn't treat her badly. The 2 of them rarely communicated. Their lips were dry and cracked and they could barely speak. Occasionally, they would groan to show that they were still alive. Tao Jijia was really at the limit of her body. She couldn't hold the knife anymore. If she continued and the knife fell to the ground, she would never have a chance to cut the rope. She wanted to go out and live. She had waited for 2 days and no one could find them. She had already persevered. Now, she really just wanted to live. She didn't say anything. She reached out and cut the rope with the knife. The knife was very fast and the rope broke. Then, Chen Kangle screamed. Tao Jijia fell to the ground. Although it hurt, she felt reborn. She didn't dare to look at Chen Kangle in the pit. Even if she could save him now, she wouldn't. If she went out, Chinkangle would definitely kill her. Therefore, the only way was to make Chinkangle stay here forever so that she would not be hurt. She had been here for 2 days and was half dead. At least she did not let Chinkangle down. After resting for a while, Tao Jia hurriedly got up from the ground and walked in the direction of the town based on her memories. The paper puppet that had turned into a rat had already removed the array formation. Tao Jia exhausted all her strength and finally returned to the small town. Along the way, she had even prepared an excuse. When she saw everyone, she told them that she and Chinkangle had met with an accident. Both of them had fallen into a deep pit. Later, she had crawled out and did not see Chinkangle. No one doubted her when they saw her sorry state. Tao Jia didn't dare to mention the existence of the mysterious man. After all, if she said too many things, she would be exposed and it would be difficult to make up a story. She didn't know that Chinkangle's leg was only injured. He had eaten some grass and was climbing out of the pit with the help of the wooden sticks. After returning to the small town, Tao Jia cherished her life very much. After eating several bowls of wild vegetable soup, she finally fell asleep. In the morning, before dawn, Tang Guo was woken up by the system. "Dear host, Chinkangle is back." He drank some and ate the rest of the wild vegetable soup. Now, he is going straight to Tao Jia's room. He has gone in. "Dear host, you can get up and eat." Without the system's reminder, Tang Guo had already gotten up. At this moment, she heard a scream from Tao Jia. Chapter 5388. Tao Jia's scream woke everyone up. Tang Guo followed the sound unhurriedly. When she arrived, there were already a few people in Tao Jia's room. "Help!" On the way, Tao Jia's cries for help could be heard. Before this, Tao Jia and Chinkangle were in the same room. Hence, no one else was staying in this room. When everyone came in with torches, they saw Tao Jia being slapped by Chinkangle on the ground. Chinkangle was in a sorry state. His face was pale and his eyes were protruding. His expression looked even scarier. There were bloodstains on his body. While everyone was in a daze, Tao Jia had already been slapped a few times. Chinkangle had lost a lot of stamina. In addition to his injuries, he didn't use enough strength. Of course, it was still a little painful. Everyone quickly pulled Chinkangle away. Seeing Chinkangle's gloomy expression and Tao Jia's look of wanting to eat him, everyone knew that something must have happened. The girls surrounded Tao Jia while the boys pulled Chinkangle away. Together, they walked outside. There were a few bonfires outside. They were reserved to prevent their lighters from breaking. If that happened, there would be no way out. Everyone was already here. They looked at Tao Jia strangely. Didn't she say in the afternoon that Chinkangle fell into the pit with her and didn't see him? Now, Chinkangle came back aggressively and even beat her up. Obviously, things were different. Dooley walked in front of Chinkangle and patted his health. "You're injured. Bandage it first." He saw that Chinkangle's pants were torn and there were bloodstains on it. "I've already bandaged it. There's no first aid kit here. This is the only way to stop the bleeding." When Chinkangle spoke, he didn't even look at Dooley. His eyes were fixed on Tao Jia. Tao Jia finally saw that the person who slapped her was Chinkangle. Why wasn't he dead? It looked like he was just lightly injured. If she had known this would happen, she would have held on longer. She would have lived a good life. At this moment, Tao Jia was filled with regret. After the regret, she felt even more fear. "Do you regret not being able to hold on for one more day?" Chinkangle said sarcastically. Tao Jia, I knew that you wanted my money, but I didn't expect you to be so heartless in the end." You actually cut the rope without saying a word. That pit is full of sharpened wood. Do you know what it means when the rope breaks? I will be pierced by thousands of arrows. At the mention of this, Chinkangle was furious. In the first 2 days, he was quite touched. No matter what, Tao Jijia could actually persevere for so long. He was thinking that when the rats ate all the wooden strips, he would ask Tao Jijia to cut the rope. He didn't expect Tao Jijia to be in such a hurry. She didn't even wait for him and didn't even inform him. Fortunately, there were only 2 wooden planks left. He tried his best to avoid being hit in his vitals, but his thigh was also scratched and bled quite a bit. Fortunately, he often worked out and did some strength training. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to hold on until he came back. Everyone understood what was going on from Chinkangle's words. Dooley still wanted to know more. Kangle, what happened to you two these few days? Chinkangle knew that he couldn't teach Tao Jijia a lesson now. He sat down quietly and told her everything that happened these few days. He saw Tao Jijia's pale face and smiled crookedly. Everyone knew about this. After this, who would dare to be friends with Tao Jijia? Chapter 5389. Tao Jijia, this isn't over. Chinkangle's harsh words provoked Tao Jijia. She shouted with red eyes, Chinkangle, what are you angry about? Yes, you should be angry. But no matter what, I've been with you for more than 2 days. I've already reached my limit. If it were someone else, I might have given up on you that day, cut the rope, and run away. If I hadn't been with you for more than 2 days, would the rats have eaten those wooden sticks? If I had heartlessly cut the rope, your corpse would have smelled. Chinkangle, in the face of life and death, let's exchange. If it were you, would you have done what I did? Chinkangle's expression was ugly. If it were an exchange, we would have been out long ago. If it weren't for your weak strength, would you have pulled me up? Chinkangle, you have to be reasonable. Don't you feel embarrassed saying this? You're more than 1.8 meters tall and work out frequently. Your weight is almost the same as your height. I'm only more than 80 kilograms and I'm hanging upside down. Can I pull you up? If I could pull you up, would I have stayed with you for 2 days? To be honest, I did it for your money because I wanted to live a different life. But I'm not the kind of person who has no conscience for money. No matter what, I've persisted for 2 days. That's enough. Do you dare say that you didn't persist for 2 days because you wanted to rely on me for the rest of your life when you got out? Chinkangle exposed Tao Jijia's previous thoughts and even mocked her. So, don't make it sound so noble and innocent. Isn't the reason why you persisted for 2 days mostly because you wanted to get what you wanted? In the end, you couldn't hold on anymore because you felt that you were at your limit and decided to protect yourself first. Tao Jijia, is there a problem with me protecting my own life first? I'm not a saint or a philanthropist. I'm not the kind of person who would sacrifice herself for others. I don't want to be someone who would sacrifice herself for love. At critical times, protecting oneself is human nature. Chinkangle, I can't be bothered to talk about this with you. Because Chinkangle realized that no one was criticizing Tao Jijia. Everyone, including her brother Dooley, was silent and didn't express their opinions on this matter. What did this mean? It meant that everyone here agreed with what Tao Jijia said. Actually, if it were him, he would definitely protect himself. However, he was still very angry. Tao Jijia was a heartless woman who only loved money. Let's put this matter behind us. Just now, you said that a mysterious person appeared to pass you the knife. Wei Yan broke the silence and looked at Tao Jijia. Do you still remember what that person looked like? I didn't see what he looked like. He was wearing a black robe, and his face was covered. He looked like a Grim Reaper from an anime, and his blade looked like the Grim Reaper's scythe. As for his voice, it was very mechanical and a little hoarse. That's all I can remember. Tao Jiejia looked like she was ready to throw caution to the wind. Since the truth has been exposed, I'm not afraid of anything. Not many people can make a different choice from me at that time. Through this person, I can be sure that we are being watched. Our every move is under the eyes of the other party. Wei Yan said, I think so too, but I don't know what the person behind this is thinking. I don't know the real motive, but I'm sure that the other party wanted to kill us. Chen Kangol said, if it wasn't for my good luck, I might have really died. Chapter 5390. After saying this, he glanced at Tao Jiejia. It was impossible for him to forget this grudge. Tao Jiejia was not afraid this time. Who knew if they could get out of here alive? What was there to be afraid of? Chen Kangol, who had left his family, was just a paper tiger. Then what should we do now? Bai Tian asked the question that was on everyone's mind. If someone was behind this, how could they get out of control and return to where they belonged? Things happened one after another. Every time they could get out of danger, it was all due to luck. If their luck ran out, wouldn't someone die? Everyone here could become that unlucky person. It was only a matter of time. It was early in the morning, and it was already a little cold. Thinking of what might happen, accompanied by a slight breeze, everyone felt a chill from head to toe. If someone planned this, then what about the walking clothes that night? The one who spoke was the boy who peed outside that night. I'm sure that those clothes are definitely not high-tech. No one is controlling them. I saw it fly up with my own eyes. It even went up the stairs and climbed over the railing as if there was someone inside. The only thing I can be sure of is that the clothes are flat. The boy's words made everyone fall silent again. Maybe it's not that someone planned something, but that we barged into a place we shouldn't have. Do you think that's possible? We only encountered those traps when we went there ourselves. If someone really planned all of this, the other party should have taken the initiative to come here to harm us. For example, wouldn't it be easier to just stab us in the neck while we were sleeping? Bai Tian said, and the mysterious person that Tao Jiejia met might have thought that it was fun and liked to play with people outside. If he really wanted to harm you, why didn't he just kill the two of you who couldn't resist? Bai Tian's words made everyone ponder again. Yes, that made sense. Tang Guo was silent. She glanced at Mu Xiaoning in the corner. He was still burying his head. This guy is secretly laughing. Dear host, he probably thinks that his plan is perfect and can make everyone confused. Mu Xiaoning was indeed laughing. He was proud of his plan, but at the same time, he felt regretful. This group of people was really lucky. A few days had passed so far. In another 1 or 2 days, it would be almost a week. No one had died. Although the plan was good, he was a little impatient that no one died. Could it be that he had to do it himself? Dear host, there's killing intent. He's getting impatient, Tang Guo replied calmly. Keep an eye on him. Don't let his hands be stained with blood. Since their discussion was fruitless, they could only repeat their previous routine. They would go out to look for food during the day and carve tree branches to spread the news outside. Wei Yan suggested that they go back and see if they could pick up the knife. Mu Xiaoning had no intention of stopping him. A knife could not change anything. It could also make things more convenient for Tang Guo so that she would not have to suffer so much. When they went out, Tang Guo called Mu Xiaoning, let's go out and see if we can pick up some good stuff. Mu Xiaoning replied, all right. He looked at Tang Guo and felt that he should provide her with pigeon eggs tomorrow, in case there was any problem with her body. He had a lot of food, but unfortunately, he couldn't share it with her. Before the plan was completed, he didn't want to expose himself. Chapter 5391. Tanguy could see that Mu Xiaoning was deep in thought. He must be feeling conflicted and complicated right now, right? However, he still did not change his initial decision. In fact, he was already impatient. He went out to look for food in the morning. In the afternoon, Mu Xiaoning used the excuse that he was not feeling well to rest in the house. In fact, the system had observed that Mu Xiaoning had gone to the secret room. Other than Tanguy, no one would interact with Mu Xiaoning. Besides, he had locked the door. Most people would choose to turn back when they encountered this. Tanguy did not intend to knock on the door. She just let the system keep an eye on Mu Xiaoning. Mu Xiaoning was scrolling through the information of the students in this class on his phone. The screen of the phone was currently pausing on Du Li's photo. Dear host, is he going to do something to Du Li? The others were incidental. Du Li was the main culprit. Before Tanguy could speak, the system spoke again. Dear host, he took out a phone from a box. I scanned it. This phone belongs to Du Li. He is using Du Li's phone to play a standalone game. Tanguy had already gone to the beach. She was carving words on the tree branches with the others. Then, she threw the branches out. She was not afraid that the branches would be thrown out. Even if the people outside found out, they would not be able to enter. She was now thinking that when this matter was over and the people outside came to find her, she would have to erase all the evidence here. This was to prevent people from discovering the strangeness of this island and finding evidence from there. Dear host, you are thinking too far ahead. Have you thought about where you're going to take your wedding photos and what kind of photos you're going to choose? Are you going to go overboard if you don't beat me up for 3 days? Sob sob sob, you are a male system after all. Aren't you afraid of being laughed at by your little brother? Those little guys won't dare to laugh at me. They are not as good as me. Until now, those disobedient systems in the Space Administration who wanted to challenge me have all been defeated by me. The system snorted. So, even if you are in the system and have different identities, so what? You still can't beat me in a fight. Tanguy said, but they have serial numbers. System, dear host, you're too much of a bully. 111 said before that the signal from the Space Administration's boss is getting better and better. Who knows, maybe when the text can be transmitted over, I'll have a serial number. Wouldn't it be easy for a wild system like me to get a serial number? Then, congratulations in advance. Mu Xiaoning spent the entire afternoon playing with Du Li's phone. He only stopped when the phone ran out of battery and shut down automatically. That night, Mu Xiaoning secretly extinguished the fire and sneaked into Du Li's room to put away his phone before returning to his room to sleep. When the students who took turns to cook in the morning woke up, they found that the fire was completely extinguished. The lighter was with Du Li, so they could only knock on Du Li's door and ask for the lighter. Du Li opened the door and let them in. Then, she turned around and looked for a lighter in the drawer. When she opened the drawer, Du Li saw her phone inside. She was stunned. Then, she quickly took out the lighter and closed the drawer. She did this almost subconsciously. He turned around and saw that the students who came in did not seem to have noticed it. He sighed in relief. Take it. Remember to take it back when the fire burns. This is our only lighter. It can't be broken or thrown away. Chapter 5392. Got it, class monitor. The student who got the lighter only felt that Du Li was a little weird today, so he didn't think too much about it. After they left, Du Li opened the drawer and took out his phone. Before he could laugh, he found that his phone was turned off. There was no battery. At that moment, the door was suddenly pushed open. He subconsciously put his hand behind his back. The phone was in his hand. He couldn't explain himself, so he had to hide it first. In class, the fire is lit. I'm here to return the lighter. Okay, put it on the cupboard. The student who returned the lighter still felt that Dooley was a little weird, especially when he had one hand behind his back, as if he was hiding something. The student's eyes darkened. Did Dooley find something good and secretly eat it? After a while, the news that Dooley must have secretly hidden something and ate it in his room spread in a small circle. Everyone was a little afraid of Dooley, so they didn't dare to mention it in front of him. However, they all kept it in mind. As the days passed, there was still no hope of leaving. Who knew what would happen on this island? Therefore, people still had to be a little selfish. Tao Jiejia was right. Everyone wanted to live. In order to survive in this place, food and water were the most important things, other than avoiding the dangers that might appear. Dooley understood that the phone appeared at the wrong time. It was most likely a plot by the person behind it. He just didn't know who this person was. Was there a plan or was it just a prank? The key now was to get rid of the phone to avoid misunderstandings. What made Dooley even more surprised was that in the afternoon, someone suggested that they should split up. Whoever found something would get it. That would be fairer. The fire sea belonged to everyone, but if they found something, they could use it themselves. After all, no one knew how long they would stay here. They couldn't always take care of those who couldn't even take care of themselves, right? They could form a small circle. There were so many pots in the town, and no one could use one. There was really no need to eat from the same pot every day. Not only was it tiring, but they also couldn't get much. It was especially unfair to those who found something good. Those who had been taken advantage of quickly agreed, expressing that it was a good idea. Dooley immediately objected, "Let's go first. What we need the most is unity. If we're not united, then we might not be able to wait until the people outside find us. Then, wouldn't people like us, who know how to cook, look for food, and are busy with everything, be at a disadvantage?" Class monitor, most people in the class don't know how to do anything. At most, they can find some wild vegetables, but even if they find them, they might not be edible. Seriously, it's been a week, and everything has been done by us. It's too tiring. We're all young masters and princesses of our families. There's no need to keep serving certain people, right? Also, the good stuff we found, I've long wanted to say, why should we share it with those who didn't find anything? If you can't find it, then just eat wild vegetables. Why do you have to share the meat? It's not enough for one person to eat anyway. Yes, we've been separated. I've wanted to do this for a long time. I also agree with splitting up. Anyway, we don't want to eat from the same big pot, and we can't eat our fill. We might as well do our own things. It's easier, and we can eat our fill. If we find something good, we can at least have a good meal. What was this? We can eat some soup every time. If this goes on, I really won't be able to last until the people outside find us. Dooley looked at everyone. Unexpectedly, no one objected to these people's words. This meant that the people's hearts were already not united. To be honest, splitting up was disadvantageous to him. "Host, does it feel like splitting up like in the past?" The system chuckled and asked. Mu shouting, "This guy is so bad." Digression. Chapter 5393. Splitting up at this time is indeed disadvantageous in the long run. Wei Yan said, "We're all classmates. We're staying on the island because of an accident. We don't really want to settle down here. For safety and the series of things that may happen next, I don't think there's a need to split up. It's easy to cause disharmony and it's disadvantageous to all of us. Yunlingling, anyway, it's not your eggs that were stolen. If you're willing to contribute it, it's your business. Stop being a neutral person and act like a wise person. Besides, why should we listen to the class leader and you? Can't we live on our own? Yes, live on our own. We're just informing the class leader. You have no right to control us. The person who spoke was the classmate who went to get the lighter in the morning. His name was Chui Yuanyong. Right now, our common property is the fire seed. Other than this, we'll live on our own. How long we can last is up to fate. Anyway, this way, I can last longer. As for the other things, when the time comes, we'll barter and exchange with labor. Isn't that good? Chui Yuanyong thought to himself, you're all secretly hiding things in class. You usually act righteous. When you're enjoying life, the ones who are tired and do the hard work are the small ones like us. On what basis could he, duly, command from high above, do nothing, and enjoy the same treatment as the rest of them who were doing manual labor? Yes, this way, no one will think that someone is prepared and slack off. If they don't work, they'll just wait to starve to death. Yunlingling said. She was still brooding over the fact that her eggs were stolen last time and she could only drink 2 bowls of wild vegetable egg soup with a little bit of egg flavor. Wei Yan frowned. She looked around at everyone and found that basically no one objected to this. It seemed that everyone was willing to take care of themselves. This was a big taboo. Under these conditions, who wouldn't want to eat alone? She also wanted to. However, once she did this, the group would disband. As time passed, it would be unfriendly to everyone. Especially now that they knew that there were other people on the island who were very unfriendly to them. If something happened, they would be a plate of loose sand. There was nothing they could do. She thought of the couple who turned against each other, Tao Jijia and Chin Kangol. If those people who were hiding on the island used this method to instigate them, it was hard to guarantee that they would not kill each other. It's decided then. In the future, the few of us in the dormitory will be a small group. We will take care of our own meals. If you want to eat from the same pot, that's your business. The few of us won't agree to it. Chui Yuanyong said. He also went over and occupied a pot. He used a stone to write a name on the floor and marked out a territory, indicating that this was the place of the few people in the dormitory. With Chui Yuanyong taking the lead, the other small groups also went to occupy a pot. When Du Li and Wei Yan saw this, they knew that they couldn't stop it. They could only stand there helplessly and watch the chaos. Since we can't stop it, then forget it. Wei Yan and Bai Tian walked to Du Li's side. It's useless to force everyone together. Du Li, that's the only way. In the end, Du Li, Wei Yan, Bai Tian, Chen Kangol, and Tao Jijia formed a small group. Chapter 53-94. Du Li said, the matter between the two of you has come to an end for now. We'll talk about it after we get out. Chen Kangol was a little indignant. Tao Jijia smiled mockingly. She had almost lost her life last time. It didn't matter if she was embarrassed or not as long as she could get out alive. Chen Kangol glared at Tao Jijia. Aren't you afraid that this woman will stab you in the back? How can you still accept her? It's not wrong to protect yourself at the critical moment. Chen Kangol, I'm not as bad as you think. Even if you choose to abandon me at the critical moment to protect your own lives, I'll accept it. Tao Jijia was completely blunt now. She was so calm that other than Chen Kangol, the other three didn't mind. Chen Kangol didn't say anything else. He knew that they weren't outside. Bai Tian scanned the surroundings and saw that everyone had their own small circle. At this moment, she saw Tanghua and Mu Xiaoning sitting in the corner. Should we ask them to join us? Bai Tian asked them tentatively. Tao Jiejia said, I have no objections. You guys can make the arrangements. There are only a few of us anyway. No one can slack off. Chen Kangol didn't say anything. He probably didn't object. It was still beneficial to have 2 more people in a small team. Besides, Tanghua and Mu Xiaoning weren't the kind to slack off. It was beneficial for them. Wei Yan glanced at Dooley nodded gently and turned to walk towards Tanghua. Before he could walk in front of Tanghua, Mu Xiaoning raised his head warily. His originally sluggish eyes were now filled with vigilance, making Dooley a little confused. Do you two want to join our small team? We don't know how long we'll have to stay on this island. If you act alone, you'll easily encounter danger. If we work together, our chances of getting out will be higher. Mu Xiaoning lowered his head and said calmly, didn't you plan to let Tanghua and me take risks on the island from the beginning? Why are you saying that it's not safe now? Du Li's expression changed. He didn't understand how Mu Xiaoning knew about this. Mu Xiaoning's voice wasn't soft. The other students were stunned. I don't dare to join you guys. The cruise party was organized by you guys. It was to play a little game with us and make us think that we've transmigrated. Tanghua also cooperated. She noticed that the other students were looking over, so she raised her voice and said, since you can plan to fool me and Mu Xiaoning, can I suspect that we are also in your trap now? Do you feel bored watching us, so you want to join us? Du Li frowned. There's no such thing. I really don't know what's going on. That means you won't deny your previous plan. Everyone in the class, including my roommates, my only good friend, kept me in the dark. They wanted to see me make a fool of myself on the island. Wei Yan said, now is not the time to talk about this. We should unite and wait for the people outside to save us. Before they find out about us, we must live well. She realized that the others knew that something bad was going to happen when they saw the strange expressions on their faces. She didn't know who didn't say anything and accidentally let Tanghua and Mu Xiaoning know about this. She glanced at the other students and realized that they more or less looked uncomfortable. They must have secretly discussed this matter and accidentally let Tanghua hear it. Unite? With you guys. Tanghua's expression was cold. Who knows if it's another conspiracy? I'm a little scared. System, as if. Chapter 53-95. Dooley saw that the suspicions in his classmates' eyes deepened, and he quickly explained, I swear, I really didn't plan this. If you don't want to, then forget it, Wei Yan said. There's no need to say these things and affect everyone's mood. If you didn't organize a class gathering, I wouldn't have appeared here. If I didn't appear here, I wouldn't have said anything that would affect you. You should know best whether or not you were the ones who did it this time. If you didn't do it, then it would be really satisfying. Otherwise, Mu Xiaoning and I would be the only ones suffering on the island. Bai Tian didn't know what to do. She had never seen the cold and unreasonable Tanghua in front of her. Tanghua, I'm really sorry. Can I apologize on their behalf? We didn't think about what happened before. Everyone was too playful. Besides, we wanted to get a bonus. Maybe you can improve your life with this bonus. Then you won't have to work part-time on the weekends. Tanghua interrupted Bai Tian's words. Why should my life be controlled by you? I need money. I have my right hand and feet. I can work hard to earn money. It's only right that I'm tired. I have to give to get something. I'm willing to do it. As for your so-called class gathering and cruise trip, you didn't even inform me, the person involved, at all. You were just watching the show. No matter how much the bonus is, I don't care. Bai Tian, forget it if she doesn't want to. Wei Yan stopped Bai Tian, who was about to speak. After staying on the island for so many days, everyone's temper is bad. Let's not talk anymore. Students, take care. I hope you can survive until the people outside find you. Wei Yan pulled Bai Tian away. She felt that it wasn't a good thing to let Tang Guo and Mu Xiaoning join the small team. They might even sow discord from time to time. Tang Guo deliberately let everyone understand that she already knew their plan. The reason why she had a falling out with them was because she wanted to change her character setting. She didn't need to be nice to everyone. Now that the class was divided into small groups, it was even more fun. Let's team up. Mu Xiaoning said to Tang Guo, they've already shared the blame. Let's find another one. He was happy to have such a small team. That way, he could secretly give her more food every day so that she would not starve. Tang Guo readily agreed and left with Mu Xiaoning. How about we change places and not stay with them? Mu Xiaoning said. Tang Guo agreed. She wanted to see what kind of tricks this guy could play. Every household in the town has a stove. We'll use the stove. The courtyard that I live in is not occupied by anyone else. We'll renovate that place and prepare a room for you. Also, I found some old locks that can lock the door. Tang Guo followed beside Mu Xiaoning and listened to him talk about the following arrangements. She kept responding. Mu Xiaoning turned around and looked at the clothes Tang Guo was wearing. He thought to himself that he still had to find something to wear. There were all kinds of things hidden in the secret chamber. They were all collected from all over the country. He wondered if there was anything suitable for winter. Although Tang Guo's outer clothes looked a little dirty, in fact, she changed her inner clothes every day. The other students more or less had a smell on them. She was the only one who was clean. A few girls were even more unlucky. They even had their periods. There were no sanitary pads here, so they could only use the old method of wrapping the ashes with cloth. Chapter 5396. After about half a day, Mu Xiaoning and Tang Guo tidied up the small courtyard and immediately filled it with human touch. He took out the old locks. As long as they went out, they would lock the courtyard and the room door. No one cared about their actions. In the eyes of the other students, what could the two of them do? Wei Yan felt that Tang Guo and Mu Xiaoning were really not very smart. They had a conflict with their classmates at this time and did not plan to cooperate with them. When the time came, they would only cry. However, the next day, Tang Guo asked her friends in the group and asked them to get her a chicken that had just been stoned to death. They had no choice. They couldn't send red packets to living creatures. They could only get a chicken that had just died and pretend that she had killed it. That morning, Tang Guo rushed out of the forest with a chicken and ran all the way to the seaside to find Mu Xiaoning. Mu Xiaoning was stunned when he saw her carrying a chicken. He touched the chicken. It was quite fat. He subconsciously said, "Such a big chicken?" He couldn't believe that there were chickens in the forest. It should be the hen that laid the eggs, right? Tang Guo said regretfully. It's a pity that we can't catch it alive. We can only kill it. Mu Xiaoning thought to himself that the hen hadn't laid the eggs previously. It was good to kill it. She could eat chicken to nourish her body. Half of it was used to roast, and the other half was used to stew soup. With some wild vegetables, she could have a full meal. I'll carry it. Tang Guo didn't refuse. She followed Mu Xiaoning empty-handed and heard Mu Xiaoning say, "How do you want to eat it?" "Anything is fine." "Then let's stew half of it and salt the other half and roast it. We can keep it for a few days and eat it later." This chicken was too fat. It might be more than 5 kilograms. He estimated that he could scrape a bowl of oil from this chicken and boil it out. He could even use it to stir-fry wild vegetables. It was impossible to hide the fact that Tanguo had killed a chicken from the other students. After all, they had to take the road that they had to take. Along the way, many people saw them carrying the chicken back. Their faces were full of shock, and then they revealed envious looks. Their eyes were almost glued to the chicken. My luck is too good. It's such a big chicken. If we didn't split up, everyone would be able to drink chicken soup. I don't know who it is that has nothing better to do, to actually start a split. If only it was a day or two later. There were complaints from the crowd, and Cui Yuanyong also felt a little regretful. However, he quickly calmed down and told his roommates that he would go to the forest in the afternoon to look for chickens. Mu Xiaoning swaggered back with the chicken. He wasn't afraid that someone would snatch it from him. He wasn't someone who hadn't eaten for many days and was malnourished. Moreover, he had made a lot of preparations for this day. They couldn't beat him. If anyone dared to come and snatch it from him, he would make sure that the other party would crawl out. Mu Xiaoning sat in the courtyard and let the blood out of the chicken. Tanguo was at the stove. She boiled a pot of water and prepared to blanch the chicken's feathers. When the water boiled, Mu Xiaoning placed the chicken in it. Then, he began to pluck the chicken's feathers. After plucking the feathers, there were still some small fluff on it. There were no tweezers here, so he could only roast it with fire. Then, he cut open the chicken's stomach. As he had expected, there was a lot of yellow chicken oil in the chicken's body. He made 2 bowls of it. This was a pleasant surprise for him. For a while, he could even stir-fry wild vegetables to eat. Just then, the courtyard's door was suddenly pushed open. 3 tall male students came in. Chapter 5397. These 3 male students were usually the more ferocious ones in class. They didn't even greet them when they entered and walked straight into the kitchen. When they saw the disemboweled chicken, their eyes flashed fiercely. One of them walked over and wanted to take the chicken. In their eyes, Mu Xiaoning and Tanguo were easy to bully. So what if they took it? What else could they do? No one expected that Mu Xiaoning would slash at that person's palm without any hesitation. Tanguo even saw a hint of excitement flash across Mu Xiaoning's eyes. With danger approaching, that person reacted quickly and quickly retracted his hand. However, his skin was still cut by the knife and blood instantly gushed out. Brat, are you courting death? Seeing this, the other 2 wanted to hold Mu Xiaoning down. However, Mu Xiaoning struck first and kicked one of them out of the kitchen. Before the other person could react, he was also kicked out. The person who kicked him had already run out of the kitchen. Mu Xiaoning chased after him and closed the door. I'll be back in a while. I'll beat them up. Although Mu Xiaoning wanted to end these people, it wasn't the time. He didn't want to do it in front of Tanguo. He left the knife in the kitchen and picked up a wooden stick in the courtyard. He rushed over and hit the 3 of them, causing their screams to spread far and wide. Class monitor, help! Mu Xiaoning is going to kill them. Everyone was paying attention to the commotion here. When they heard that something was wrong inside, they rushed over. The door was open. When they walked in, they saw Mu Xiaoning holding a long stick with a gloomy face. There were 3 people rolling on the ground, but they still couldn't avoid the wooden stick. Du Li stopped him. Mu Xiaoning, what are you doing? Mu Xiaoning stopped and held the wooden stick tightly in his hand. He looked up and glanced at everyone. He saw that their eyes were filled with disbelief and blame, but they didn't care. You should ask them what they are doing. They came in to snatch things and peed their pants when they couldn't win. They're weaklings who cry for help. Dooley's voice was stopped. For some reason, he didn't dare to look Mu Xiaoning in the eye. The other party's gaze always gave him a lot of pressure. It was as if he was the prey and the other party was the hunter. It made him very uncomfortable. Didn't we agree that we'll each take care of our own business? Don't try to get any ideas. Mu Xiaoning casually threw the wooden stick to the side. All of you, get out. Take these 3 weaklings away with you. Don't come here for no reason. This time it was a wooden stick. Next time, it might be a knife. Dooley was infuriated, but there was nothing he could do. He could only call for the 3 of them to be pulled away, and the others followed suit. Those who originally had some thoughts did not dare to do so. Mu Xiaoning looked a little thin. He didn't expect him to be so ferocious and not to be trifled with. A few hours later, everyone smelled the fragrance coming from the courtyard. They were extremely hungry, but they didn't dare to go over. Whether it was Mu Xiaoning or Tanguo, it was difficult to communicate with them. In the past, Tanguo was still fine. But ever since they had a falling out, she no longer gave them any face. Aren't you good friends with Tanguo? Why don't you go and get some chicken soup? Someone asked Xiang Wen. Xiang Wen's face turned ugly, but she didn't say anything. Xiang Wen, to be honest, it's not wrong for her to be angry with you. Back then, what surprised me the most about the plan in class was that you two were so close, but you actually deceived her. So, are you two plastic sisters? Chen Xiaohan asked with a grin, completely ignoring Xiang Wen's ugly expression. If she was my sister and someone dared to trick her like this, I would definitely torture them to death. Unfortunately, the end result of being sincere to someone is that they might not be sincere to you. Chen Xiaohan rested her chin on her hand. Xiang Wen couldn't help it. Then why did you snatch Yunlingling's eggs? You almost angered her to death. I can't take it lying down. Before coming to the island, I took care of her everywhere. When she found the eggs, I was also beside her. In the end, when the eggs were cooked, she didn't even ask me. I couldn't take it anymore. Chen Xiaohan smiled and said, Tanguo usually takes care of you, right? For the sake of the class monitor, you forgot about her. By the way, you should be a little jealous of her. After all, she's a famous beauty with so many suitors. Many of those suitors will get to know her through you. Also, you should like the class monitor, right? Chen Xiaohan's face was full of holes. What kind of sister are you? She's so unlucky to know you. Digression, see you tomorrow. Chapter 5398. Half a month passed unknowingly. Ever since the collective life was disbanded, the others could only watch as Tanguo and Mu Xiaoning's days became more and more prosperous. Even if they couldn't get a chicken every day, they could get something good every day or two. It could be a bird, an egg, or even some crabs or prawns. They tried to follow the 2 of them to pick up the scraps, but of course, they didn't find anything. Some people got anxious and jumped out to accuse the 2 of them of only caring about themselves and not about their relationship as classmates. In the end, they were scolded by Tanguo. They were indignant and wanted to cause trouble, but in the end, they were beaten up by Mu Xiaoning. Mu Xiaoning never held back when he beat people up. He kept punching the troublemaker. The person who was beaten up would definitely be in pain the next morning. Mu Xiaoning was originally very frustrated. The plan was so perfect, but he didn't kill anyone. The progress was a little too slow. The disbanding of the collective life was delaying him from killing people personally because he seemed to be immersed in such a peaceful farm life. He couldn't bear to break these busy, dull, and happy days. Thus, he didn't plan to do anything for the time being. Once he started killing people, all the peace here would be broken, and they would never be able to return to the past. In the eyes of the girl who was busy with him every day, he would become a terrifying murderer covered in blood. In this life, his hands were still clean, so he could stay by her side for the time being. However, the reality was that he couldn't delay any longer. This game would end sooner or later, and he still had to send her back to school. She cared about her family, dreams, and a happy life in the future. He couldn't leave her on this dark island. Xiaoning decided to create an accident and trap Tanguo in a house temporarily. Then, he could make his own plans. Most importantly, they were together every day now. Except for at night, it was difficult for him to do anything alone during the day. He planned to trap Tanguo in a house for half a day. It would be a dangerous experience for her on the island. When the time came, no one would suspect her. Tanguo didn't know what Xiaoning was thinking. She woke up at dawn. Xiaoning always woke up earlier than her. When she woke up, she could smell the fragrance from the kitchen. We've been trapped here for half a month. We have enough food for a few days, so we don't have to go out every day. During breakfast, Xiaoning suddenly said, "Speaking of which, we haven't explored this town in detail." "You want to explore this town?" Tanguo looked up and asked. Xiaoning nodded gently. "Let's go and see if there's anything we need. We don't know how long we'll be here." "Then let's go later." Tanguo didn't refuse. She would play along with Xiaoning. She felt that Xiaoning, who had been quiet for a few days, couldn't hold back anymore and was ready to take action. The two of them didn't speak anymore. Actually, Xiaoning didn't like to talk much. In front of Tanguo, it was already an extraordinary performance. In front of others, unless it is absolutely necessary. Bring some wild vegetable pancakes and fruits. We won't be able to finish the stroll in such a short time. If we get hungry, we can have some extra food. Xiaoning wasn't reminding him. Instead, he had already done so. He was holding a basket made of weeds in his hand. This basket was made by Tanguo. She had made several of them, some big and some small. It was very convenient to put things in. Chapter 53-99. Tanguo's intuition told her that Xiaoning was probably thinking of something. She pretended not to notice anything and followed Xiaoning. As soon as they left the house, they were watched by the other students around them. This was a scene they would encounter every day. These students would openly follow behind them, hoping to pick up the leftovers. Indeed, they couldn't pick up meat, but they could still pick up some wild vegetables and fruits. This time, the two of them didn't go to the forest or the seaside. Everyone was confused. Should we follow them? Let's follow them and see where they're going. Xiaoning heard the whispers behind him and had no intention of stopping them. That way, they could see with their own eyes that the two of them were trapped in the mysterious house and couldn't get out for the time being. Anyway, they wouldn't live for long. Let them be happy. A sneer appeared on Xiaoning's lips. When he looked at Tanguo, his smile unconsciously became warm. Xiaoning, what do you want to do the most after you go out? Tanguo suddenly asked. Xiaoning was stunned. What did he want to do the most after he went out? He had never thought about it because he had never planned to go out. Of course, there was nothing he wanted to do. I didn't expect that, Xiaoning answered and changed the topic. What about you? I'll call my family first and do some personal hygiene. Xiaoning said, that seems to be the right thing to do. However, there was nothing he could miss outside. He looked at the side of Tanguo's face. He was a little confused. God let him be reborn. Is it to torture him or to give him a gift? Xiaoning's heart wavered. The past few days had been so beautiful that he couldn't bear to end it so quickly. He suddenly realized that he had never thought of living for a long time after he came back. There was nothing in this world that was worth staying for. God seemed to be joking with him. He had planned for so many years and was at the final juncture. He actually gave him such a beautiful time that he couldn't bear to give up. Instead, he wanted to keep it. He looked at his hands that were holding the basket. As long as these hands were stained with a human life, that kind of beauty would forever leave him. Mu Xiaoning's mind was in a mess. He didn't plan on speaking. He buried his head and covered his face again. Tanggua didn't say anything else. Just now, she felt a peaceful aura coming from Mu Xiaoning's body. It was no longer filled with killing intent. He wavered. How many people can remain unmoved in the face of such beauty? As a person, once there's something they care about, they'll naturally think about the long term and try to keep the best things. Tanggua said, "You're becoming more and more like a human. You're still talking like an old man. No matter what, I've followed the host for so many years. I haven't wasted my time. Also, how could this brat escape from host's palm?" The students who followed Tanggua and Mu Xiaoning realized that Tanggua and Mu Xiaoning were here to visit the ancient town. Most of them had no intention of going back. The two of them were quite lucky. Perhaps they could find something useful in the town. At this time, everyone's first thought was to be able to get out. There were gold, silver, jewelry, antiques, and so on, so they didn't care as much as they did at the beginning. It would be best if they could find something that would make life easier for them. For example, a newer, unspoiled quilt. Chapter 5400. Mu Xiaoning brought Tanggua to explore some of the rooms in the town. The rooms here were old, and some of the doors were on the verge of collapse. The spider webs on them were put in by spiders that Mu Xiaoning had paid a high price to catch. In any case, it took many years to build this place. Even though it was old, many of the things were real. They were old things that had been collected from old places. After about half an hour, they had already explored many rooms. There were not many useful things that they could pick up. Finally, they arrived at the place that Mu Xiaoning had set up. This place looked different. Even though it was old and shabby, it could not wash away the fact that the house in front of them was not an ordinary person. Mu Xiaoning calculated the time and Tanggua's footsteps and finally triggered a mechanism. A wooden board immediately fell above his and Tanggua's heads. He quickly pushed Tanggua into a room. Then, amidst everyone's exclamations, he could only quickly hide in another room. He could not retreat because a few wooden boards fell from above, raising a cloud of dust. When the dust settled, the door to the room that Tanggua and Mu Xiaoning were in was actually closed. Not only that, the structure of the room was also changing. It was as if there were doors in front of them, making them forget where the two of them were. The things that were still standing outside were a little stunned when they saw this scene. When they came back to their senses, they looked at each other. They're trapped inside. A bold person realized that there was no danger and approached the countless doors. He gently knocked on them and shouted, "Hey, is there anyone inside?" No one responded. They could not hear anything from inside. In fact, Tanggua and Mu Xiaoning were no longer in their original room. They had been moved to another place, so of course, they could not hear anything. "Don't you think this serves them right?" The person who knocked on the wooden door just now suddenly laughed. He patted the dust off his body and revealed a very relieved smile. "Who asked them to be selfish? Even the heavens can't stand it. If they had been nicer to others before, would I not have thought of a way to save them?" Many people nodded in agreement. "That's right. Everyone has something to do. Who can figure out what's going on with this door? What if we trigger a mechanism? If that happens, not only will we not be able to save them, but we will also be implicated. Class rep, don't you think so? Dooley, who had been called out, walked up to those doors. These doors were strange. He tried to push them, but found that he couldn't move them at all. This place is full of oddities. Indeed, we can't touch it casually. They must have touched something just now to be trapped inside. It's not easy to find the key. Class rep, I'm not going to do the job of looking for people. Who knows what I'll touch later? When the time comes, we'll be done for. Actually, Dooley didn't want to look for her either. He hadn't forgotten how Tanggua and Mushouning had humiliated him. So many people didn't want to care about the two of them, and he felt a little happy. Especially Tanggua. He used to be kind to her and gave her all kinds of gifts and flowers, but she didn't even look at them. Now, she was fighting with a poor boy. It was simply trampling on his self-esteem. Why don't we try using a knife? Wasn't there a sickle earlier? Who knows, I might be able to break the door with just a few slashes. At this moment, Baitian said, we can't just watch them be trapped inside and not save them. Let them starve to death, right? We're all classmates. I can't watch such a thing happen. Chapter 5401. Baitian's words didn't resonate with the others. I'll go back and get the knife. At this moment, Tao Jijia, who didn't have much of a presence, said. She saw everyone looking at her strangely, as if saying, you're so bad, but you're saving people at this time. She found it funny. I care more about myself. When my life isn't in danger, I won't give up if I can save my classmates. If I'm in danger, I'll make the same choice as last time. After a while, Tao Jijia came back with the sickle. Chen Xiaohan came with her. Seeing Chen Xiaohan appear, everyone looked at her. After all, she wasn't someone who was at a disadvantage. Was she here to watch the show or to do something? But when they saw the slightly blunt knife in Chen Xiaohan's hand, they understood that she was here to help. I brought you a knife. It's a little blunt. Tao Jijia handed Baitian a knife. It was the kind she found in a small town. It was covered in rust. Although the rust had been removed, it was still slow and might not be able to do anything. Baitian took it. Then, the three of them began to hack at the door. The sound of chopping was so loud that it hurt everyone's ears. It's useless like this. Besides, are the two of them worth saving? Dooley added, a few knives can't break these doors at all. They might trigger a mechanism. Chen Xiaohan turned back and smiled. Then get lost. Get out. Even if the mechanism is triggered, it won't implicate you. She had already tested it just now. It was because she didn't trigger the mechanism that she dared to continue. She had the same thoughts as Tao Jijia. Once there was any danger, she would definitely abandon the knife and leave. At the critical moment, it was right to protect herself. In a situation where there was no danger, it was easy to help her classmates get through this difficult situation. Speaking of which, she was quite eager for the two of them to come out. She might be able to freeload off their good luck and have a mouthful of chicken soup to drink. Just for this, she had to work hard, right? If she really couldn't save the two of them, then she and the others were quite unlucky. Those who are willing to join us, come back with me to get the knife. If not, look elsewhere. Wei Yan looked at Baitian, who was clearly so thin and weak, but still desperately slashed at the door with a rusty and blunt knife. She recalled the time when they were in danger and was slightly touched. Although they were good friends and sisters, she had always held back from Baitian. If the situation had been reversed, she didn't know what choice she would have made. However, she would remember Baitian's choice for the rest of her life. She knew what kind of snakes Baitian described later on. Once bitten, even if she tried to save them immediately, she would know how venomous they were. She felt that Bai Tian had changed recently. Bai Tian no longer listened to her and had her own ideas. In fact, she had actually helped Bai Tian out just now. She also felt that Tanggua and Bai Tian deserved to be locked inside. Who told them to ignore the group's interests and enjoy the benefits alone? Bai Tian pushed her hand away and said that she wanted to save the two people inside. She didn't know what to feel. She only knew that everyone had their own thoughts. She seemed to have been changed by Bai Tian. She might not be able to disregard the danger to save others when they were in danger, but if Bai Tian was in danger, she would definitely help, even if it meant putting herself in danger. Chapter 5402. More than 10 people stood out from the crowd and followed Wei Yan back to look for knives. After a while, they returned and slashed at the door with knives. Dear host, things seem to be out of Mu Xiaoning's expectations. It's developing in a direction that he can't control. This is actually very normal. There's no perfect good person, and no one is completely evil. There's good in a single thought, and evil in another. He's already wavered because of you, dear host. Now that so many people are helping him, I'm afraid he'll be even more conflicted. This child has lacked love since he was young. If someone treats him sincerely and shows him more concern, he'll be easily moved. The system continued. He's already changed his clothes and was about to go out and do bad things. But when he saw the scene outside, he sat on the chair and didn't move. He kept staring at the surveillance screen. He even took off his black robe and scratched his head in frustration. He probably doesn't understand why these detestable and annoying people are suddenly not so detestable anymore. This is a good thing for him. Ever since he lost his parents, he's been exposed to deception, disguise, and darkness. All emotions are malicious to him. So, as long as someone shows him the slightest bit of malice, he'll magnify it infinitely and awaken the dark side of his heart. He wants to destroy all these bad things that will hurt him. The system had something in its heart that it didn't say. The dear host's analysis was so reasonable. Was it because she was like this in the past? Thinking about it carefully, it was true. Dear host, Mu Xiaoning changed back into his clothes and hid his tools. It seems like he's given up on today's plan. But he's still in a daze on the chair, staring at the surveillance screen. He's a little dazed and confused. Let him calm down. Tanggua didn't expect that the game would take such a turn so quickly. No one was evil to the extreme. She had expected such a situation to occur. 3 hours later, Bai Tian and the rest were still slashing at the door. They had no intention of stopping. Let's rest first. We'll go back and get some food before slashing. I don't have much energy left, Wei Yan said. Everyone nodded in agreement. Tao Jiejia turned back. Okay, I'm so tired. But I've been doing some work recently and eating more wild vegetables. I feel like my energy has increased a lot. After I get out of here, I won't diet anymore. I'm skinny, but I'm fine when I encounter problems. It's better to exercise to lose weight. Tao Jiejia's gaze almost called out Chen Kangol directly. If his stamina was better, he wouldn't have lost such a fat piece of meat like Chen Kangol. Chen Kangol was so angry that the corner of his mouth twitched. The current Tao Jiejia was 10 times, no, 100 times more shameless than before. Tao Jiejia slashed at the door for the last time. Just as she was about to stop, the room suddenly shook. She didn't even have time to pull out the sickle. She jumped up and ran outside. The others did the same and hurriedly hid in a safe place. Another cloud of dust rose in front of their eyes. Then they heard some strange noises and realized that the structure of the house was changing again. After everything calmed down, the door to the room where Tanghua and Mu Xiaoning were earlier opened. Seeing the two of them walk out, Bai Tian ran over with a smile. "Are you guys okay?" "That's right, it must be Tao Jiejia. Her most likely hit the mechanism and opened this place." Mu Xiaoning scanned the crowd one by one, remembering the person who had slashed the door. Right now, he was still very conflicted. For the time being, he couldn't carry out the next step of the plan. Some things seemed to be a little different from what he had imagined. Chapter 5403. It's nothing. Tanghua saw that Mu Xiaoning was silent and understood that he had mixed feelings. He might not know what to say for a while, so she spoke first. "Thank you for just now. We just wanted to try. We didn't expect it to work," Bai Tian said. "It's better not to come to this kind of place in the future. Who knows what strange traps you'll trigger." Tanghua responded and walked to Mu Xiaoning's side. She patted his shoulder and asked, "Are you okay?" "I'm fine." Mu Xiaoning looked up. The confusion in his eyes had not faded. He was still holding the basket with wild vegetable pancakes and wild fruits in his hand. He looked at Tanghua, then at Bai Tian and the others. Finally, he said to Tanghua, "Let's go back." When he passed by Bai Tian, he threw the basket into her hands. Bai Tian hurriedly caught it and looked at Mu Xiaoning's back. Although he didn't say anything, everyone understood what he meant. There were many wild vegetable pancakes in the basket. They were not ordinary wild vegetable pancakes. There were prawns inside, and they were made with chicken oil. The taste was not as good as the delicacies outside, but it was much more delicious than the wild vegetables everyone usually ate. The fruits were also very sweet. Actually, they were not wild fruits, but were picked by Tanghua's friends in the group. Although these things were not much, the dozen people who helped them just now could each have 2 bites. It could be considered a sumptuous meal. Actually, we were in the wrong previously. It's normal for them to hate us, right? Bai Tian looked at everyone and said, "We all said that Mu Xiaoning and Tanghua did not care about the interests of the group, but from their perspective, all of us wanted to play a game. We hid it from them and played them like monkeys. Isn't it normal for them to hate us? Now that we helped them unintentionally, even an introverted person like Mu Xiaoning is willing to thank us." Bai Tian looked at the exquisitely woven basket. "There are wild vegetable pancakes and wild fruits here. Since Mu Xiaoning is thanking us, let's split the fruits among the students who helped today. Does anyone have any objections?" Wei Yan said, "Of course not." "Then I'll split it." Although each person can only eat 1 or 2 mouthfuls, it's still quite a lot. There are also shrimps in the wild vegetable pancakes. Speaking of which, we haven't seen meat in a long time. There's oil on the biscuits, and it smells very fragrant. The more Bai Tian spoke, the more hungry she became. She quickly divided the biscuits and wild fruits. Dooley and the other students who didn't contribute and had been watching from the sidelines, gloating and mocking, could only watch helplessly. There were also people who were regretting it. If they had known that Mu Xiaoning would give them something, they would have pretended to help and just slashed the door a few times. However, it had already happened, and it was too late for regrets. "Mu Xiaoning, what are you thinking about?" Mu Xiaoning did not return to his courtyard. Instead, he walked towards the forest. Tanghua suddenly called out to him from behind. He paused and waited for her to catch up. "I'm wondering why they suddenly helped." Mu Xiaoning saw that Tanghua had caught up with him and continued walking. They clearly didn't have to help. No matter what, we're all classmates. When there's no life-threatening danger, most people are willing to lend a helping hand. There aren't many people in this world who can watch a familiar person die in front of them. Is that so? Xiaoning didn't quite understand, but he could understand something. Chapter 5404. If they were the ones trapped inside today, I wouldn't have saved them, Xiaoning said bluntly. Tell me, am I a bad person? I won't answer your question first. I just want to give you an example. If in the future, the students who helped you today suddenly fall into a life-threatening situation, and you only need to lift a finger to save them, at that time, would you be willing to lend a helping hand? Tangguo didn't answer directly, but the question she threw out stunned Xiaoning. The moment the question was raised, he didn't answer immediately and express that he wouldn't save them. He actually hesitated. He had clearly planned to kill all of these people and let them die in pain and fear. Why did he hesitate in the face of Tangguo's question? Why did he even hesitate in his heart to lend a helping hand? What's your answer, Xiaoning? Xiaoning couldn't reject Tangguo's question, so he answered, yes. However, he felt that this was against his principles, so he added, but if they court death and encounter danger again, I won't. I've already repaid the favor. Tangguo laughed. She didn't pursue the matter further. It wasn't easy for Xiaoning to be touched. He was lonely in his heart. He had always thought that the world was filled with malice, so he wanted to destroy all the people and things that hurt him. She used to think so too. Let's go to the forest and take a look. Maybe we can find something good. Xiaoning instantly threw away the complicated thoughts in his mind. Okay, let's go take a look. However, he was still distracted during the operation. At night, he had to make a signal on his laptop and mark those people today. As long as they didn't provoke him, he wouldn't do anything to them for the time being. He planned to cancel the second chain plan against Wei Yan and Bai Tian. Then, he would target Dooley directly. Dooley was the one who planned everything first. He seemed to be living quite comfortably in the half a month since he came here. While Dooley was distracted, Tangguo distanced herself from him and asked her friends in the group to send her another chicken. When Xiaoning came looking for her, he happened to see her holding an especially fat chicken in her hand. Chicken again. Xiaoning's eyes lit up. He wasn't surprised that Tangguo was so lucky. If the chicken wasn't from the forest, where else could it be? Yes, we have more. Tangguo was all smiles. We are so lucky. Not only do we have chickens, but we also have mushrooms. Xiaoning saw the mushrooms piled up on the ground. It's time to stew chicken with mushrooms. The spices we found earlier can be put to good use. Xiaoning carried a chicken while Tangguo weaved a simple basket with grass. She put all the mushrooms in it and picked some other wild vegetables while she was at it. When they appeared in the town like this, everyone was shocked. Did the two of them activate some sort of survival hack? This was already the second chicken. This chicken's eyesight wasn't too good. Every time, it would find them. No wonder it lived to the end. Hey, do you think they will share some soup with us? Chen Xiaohan asked straightforwardly. She couldn't help but lick the corner of her lips. I'm so excited when I think about the taste of chicken soup. I'd love to have a bowl of it. Chapter 5405. Xiaoning has already given us wild vegetable pancakes and wild fruits, Tao Jiejie said. He's not doing charity. It's normal for him not to give. I think we should be able to get some soup, Bai Tian added. They're not bad people to begin with. Speaking of which, we were in the wrong in the beginning. Previously, Xiaoning had already thanked us for helping him out a little. Actually, if we hadn't angered them in the beginning, why would there be a conflict later? We're all classmates. In such an environment, we can't really turn a blind eye. Anyway, I'm looking forward to it. Chen Xiaohan continued to lick her lips. Her eyes were almost glowing. Those who had experienced Mu Xiaoning's skills didn't dare to do anything. Speaking of which, you guys helped them so much previously. Now that they're back with the chicken, they don't seem to intend to thank you. The person who spoke was Cui Yuanyong. He was a little unhappy earlier, but now he was gloating. Look, you guys worked so hard for so long, but they didn't think of you. Dooley didn't say anything. He was the class leader after all. It wasn't appropriate for him to say such things. Anyway, someone would say such things. Actually, he was a little happy. These people had helped the two of them just now, and they seemed to have sent them away with a few wild vegetable pancakes and wild fruits. This time, Chen Kangol directly mocked Tao Jiejia, who was standing at the side. It seems that your efforts didn't get the results you deserved. Are you regretting it now? Tao Jiejia rolled her eyes at him. You're just trying to make conversation, aren't you? I'm just commenting. You guys helped two ingrates previously. Think about your bold words from before. Don't you think it's ridiculous? Chen Kangol, you should understand. What I said just now was that under the condition that it doesn't affect you, it's not considered a loss to help out for the sake of your classmates. If anyone asks me to risk my life, then it won't do. Tao Jiejia stepped on Chen Kangol's foot and ran away quickly. Chen Kangol stomped his feet in pain and chased after Tao Jiejia fiercely. Tao Jiejia was so frightened that she quickly ran outside. At that moment, Chen Kangol realized that Tao Jiejia had stopped moving and was about to beat her up. Tao Jiejia quickly dodged and hid behind Mu Xiaoning and Tanghua. Chen Kangol's fist that was about to land suddenly retracted. When he saw the half-chicken in Mu Xiaoning's hand, his expression changed. Mu Xiaoning turned around and threw the chicken into Tao Jiejia's hands. Without saying how to distribute it, he called Tanghua and left. It was impossible to be friends. This was the only time they would be sharing the meat. Their previous actions had left his mind in a mess. Of course, this was the result of his discussion with Tanghua. Tao Jiejia held the fat chicken in her hand in a daze and swallowed her saliva subconsciously. Although it was only half a chicken, it was quite heavy. It looked really good and delicious. She noticed Chen Kangol's glowing eyes and hurriedly threw the chicken to Wei Yan, Bai Tian, and the others. The students who had contributed previously stood up and surrounded them, fearing that someone would take the opportunity to snatch the items. It was worth mentioning that other than Mu Xiaoning's group, the male students who helped today were all rather large in size. Therefore, no one went up to fight for it. Mu Xiaoning and Tanghua couldn't be bothered to care about how they split the loot. If they fought because of this, they would probably just laugh at the side. Sharing things did not mean that there could be friendship between them. Chapter 5406. It's obvious that they sent this half a chicken over to thank the students who worked hard today. This is an unexpected surprise, because when we were doing this, we didn't expect such a return at all. Wei Yan said to everyone, when the accident happened, everyone present should have heard it. Bai Tian suggested that everyone help to save them. However, only a dozen of us are willing to help. Hence, this half a chicken only belongs to a dozen of us. Wei Yan knew that many people would be affected by this. However, this was reality. It was impossible to get anything in return without putting in any effort. Half a chicken for a dozen people and a chicken for more than 50 people were two different concepts. I know that those who didn't participate are very indignant, Wei Yan continued. But there's no other way. This chicken belongs to a dozen of us. The distribution is decided by these dozen of us. Even though this was the best time to win over people's hearts, Wei Yan knew very well that giving out a little meat and fish meant that they didn't know what the island would be like in the future. It was better to eat a few more mouthfuls to replenish their nutrients and increase their strength. Besides, if they really encountered any danger, these people might not really be grateful. She might even be the most grateful to them. In this case, she might as well gather this group of people who contributed immediately and form a team that was more friendly to Tanghua and Mu Xiaoning. She believed that after today, they would be the most united team. Although there were arguments in the process, Wei Yan's small team was formed in the end. They still chose to stew chicken soup. The chicken soup was fragrant, but it was only enough for one person. If there was more water, it would lose its flavor. Mu Xiaoning, do you think the people outside know that we're missing? Mu Xiaoning paused and thought for a long time before replying, they might already be looking for us. More than half a month had passed, and these people had not contacted their families. They probably knew that the cruise ship had disappeared. His plan was so perfect, but it was ruined. Things happened one after another that were out of his expectations. He couldn't bear to kill those people who were desperately hacking at the door. In his previous life, he didn't hesitate to send these people to hell. What was the problem? Mu Xiaoning was in a daze. He felt that this wasn't a good idea. He decided to attack Dooley first. He didn't want to play slowly at all. That night, Mu Xiaoning took action. Dooley stayed in a room alone. That night, when everyone was asleep, Dooley was suddenly awakened by a sound. Want to go out? Who? Dooley opened her eyes and looked at her surroundings in shock. She wondered if she was too tired and was dreaming. Dooley, do you want to go out? This time, Dooley heard it clearly. Someone was really talking. He now understood that there were probably surveillance cameras hidden in this room. However, he had searched carefully before and found no traces at all. If you want to come out, then do as I say. As long as you can do what I tell you to do, I will let you go. The person I am targeting this time is not you. Dooley's expression was uncertain. It was not directed at him. Thinking about it carefully, after being thrown here, he did not suffer any substantial injuries. Perhaps what the other party said was true. Of course, he felt that the other party wanted to use him to do something. If they could really get out, everything would be fine as long as they could get out. He was about to go crazy if he stayed here. Chapter 5407. In the end, Dooley decided to follow the voice and give up. Not long after, he walked out of their usual living area and came to the side of an abandoned pond. Where are you? I've already done as you said. What do you want me to do to make me? Before he could finish his last sentence, Dooley was hit in the back of the head with a stick. He was dizzy and fell to the ground. He crawled to the ground. His last thought was that he really shouldn't have listened to that voice's nonsense. How could such a villain hiding in the dark really let him out? The person holding the wooden stick behind Dooley was Mu Xiaoning. He was still wearing the black robe, but he didn't wear a mask. Of course, he only needed to pull down his hat to easily cover his face. He slowly walked in front of Dooley and changed his voice slightly. Seeing that Dooley was still struggling, he said, I wanted to play slowly, but now I've lost my patience. Tonight is a good time. I'll send you down first. Dooley wanted to struggle, but he was dizzy from the hit. In addition, he had been eating wild vegetables for half a month. His physical strength was completely exhausted. He couldn't even struggle. I plan to throw you into the sea, Mu Xiaoning said slowly. Mu Xiaoning said leisurely. At the same time, he grabbed the back of Dooley's collar and gently lifted him up. When they find the phone in your room, they'll think that you're the mastermind. Dooley gritted his teeth. If it weren't for the fact that he didn't have the strength, he would definitely teach this person a lesson. Mu Xiaoning didn't say anything else in case something happened. He carried Dooley and walked quietly to the beach. Dooley's vision gradually blurred. He tried hard to open his eyes, but he couldn't. Before he lost consciousness, he regretted listening to this person's nonsense. He shouldn't have come out at all. When Mu Xiaoning walked to the beach, he was suddenly stunned because someone was sitting on a rock. Under the moonlight, he saw who it was. She raised her head and looked at Mu Xiaoning. Mu Xiaoning wasn't wearing a mask or a hat to cover his face. She saw his black robe clearly. He was so shocked that he dropped Dooley to the ground. He was at a loss. No one said anything. Only the wind blew in his ears. It was a little cold. Now, his hands and feet were cold. He didn't expect that he would be exposed. Looking at Tanggua's expression, it was obvious that she knew more. Mu Xiaoning's eyes dimmed. He thought that he had hidden it well, but little did he know that she had already discovered it. Why didn't she expose him? Tanggua stood up and walked to Mu Xiaoning. She squatted down to check on Dooley. He's not dead yet. Mu Xiaoning. He had only knocked Dooley out, he didn't intend to kill him directly. He wanted him to drown in pain in the sea. He was indeed that cruel and dark. When Dooley wakes up tomorrow morning, she'll definitely feel like she had a dream. When she wakes up, she'll find herself lying on the floor with her head hitting the bedside table. Mu Xiaoning's eyes were filled with confusion. What did he mean? Then, he saw that Tanggua had actually lifted Dooley up. His eyes widened. How did she manage to lift a man who weighed more than 100 kilograms? Could it be that she had practiced it before? She was like him. Were they all reborn? That would explain it. Why was she different from the person in his memory? Mu Xiaoning followed beside her silently and looked around vigilantly. In the end, he took out his phone and looked at the house where those people were sleeping. He was afraid that they would run out and bump into them. System, host, this guy is helping you keep a lookout. When he came out, Mu Xiaoning was awe-inspiring, but when he went back, he became sneaky and a little scared. After all, Tanggua didn't disguise herself. What if she was discovered by others? Where are you taking him? Seeing that they were about to return to the place where those people were staying, Mu Xiaoning couldn't help but ask, where do you think you should put him? I'll do it. Tanggua put Dooley down. Mu Xiaoning heaved a sigh of relief and hurried over to pick him up. He even kept a distance from her and repeated, where are you putting him? His room. Mu Xiaoning paused for a moment, remembering what Tanggua's words meant. He wasn't the one who brought Dooley out. The other party only had a dream and kowtowed. When he looked at Tanggua again, his eyes lit up. Chapter 5408. Mu Xiaoning quickly moved Dooley back to his room and placed him on the ground. Tanggua whispered to him where to place him, and he quickly positioned himself. After placing him, Dooley indeed looked like he had rolled down from the bed. Is it done? Mu Xiaoning asked seriously. System, why is this guy a little silly? He's like a child who's been caught doing something wrong and is trying to make up for it. It's done. Let's go back. After getting Tanggua's confirmation, Mu Xiaoning followed her to the courtyard where they lived. After returning to his place, Mu Xiaoning invited Tanggua into his room. He didn't say anything, and Tanggua didn't ask why. Mu Xiaoning didn't know what to do. He only needed to throw Dooley into the sea, and even she couldn't stop him. However, with just a few words from her, he didn't hesitate to break his plan and follow her. He didn't see disappointment or fear in her eyes. Instead, this feeling made him feel at ease. He really wanted to ask if Tanggua was like him. However, he was a little uncertain and didn't dare to ask. He was a little afraid of saying the wrong thing. He didn't give off the same feeling of fear in front of Dooley. "Don't you want to go out?" This was Tangua's first sentence, and Mu Xiaoning didn't expect it. He should be able to guess that she already knew that he was the one behind the tricks on the island. He was still thinking about what he should say if she asked about it. Should he give an excuse or answer her truthfully? If she really wanted to ask, he might tell her the truth. He really couldn't refuse to answer her question. He couldn't even lie to her. Thinking of her mysterious appearance on the island, Mu Xiaoning was more inclined to think that Tang Guo was like him, reborn. Is this question very difficult? Seeing that Mu Xiaoning didn't answer, Tang Guo asked again. You really don't want to go out at all? Mu Xiaoning hesitated this time. He didn't answer immediately. He didn't want to go out. He was shocked. He didn't know when, but he actually hoped to leave this place. It was actually very simple for him to go out. He just needed to send a signal outside. However, what sealed him in this place was not a signal, but his heart. She had unknowingly opened up his heart and made him look forward to the outside world. No, it should be said that he looked forward to her outside world. If we go out, Mu Xiaoning did not answer directly. Instead, he asked, if we go out, can we still be so close? Tang Guo couldn't hold it in any longer. She reached out and pinched his face. She took off the hood of his black windbreaker, revealing his entire face. Are you going to disappear after we go out? Are you going to avoid me? Or are you going to leave me? Of course not. How could I? Mu Xiaoning retorted quickly. He seemed to have sensed something. Unexpectedly, Tang Guo spoke first. As long as you're willing to fight for it, after we get out, our relationship will not only be as close as it is now, but even closer than before. How close we can be depends on how hard you work. Mu Xiaoning couldn't control himself anymore. He felt his blood boiling. He wanted to end this immediately and take her out of here. This feeling of running in a new direction really made him impatient. He didn't want to waste any more time. Chapter 5409. I was reborn, Mu Xiaoning said calmly. He planned to reveal his secret. He didn't want to stay on this island anymore. He wanted to live. He looked at his hands and suddenly rejoiced. Perhaps the heavens had helped him and prevented him from doing something irreversible. If his hands were stained with a human life in this life, he would only be worthy of struggling in the darkness forever. He wouldn't be worthy of staying by her side. Before I was reborn, the two of us were sent to this island as they had planned. At that time, we all thought that we had transmigrated and began a difficult life on the island. Later, they felt that it was easy for us to deal with it and planned to increase the difficulty. They got a group of people to disguise themselves as bandits and robbers. This was what I forced out later. You were on the run and an accident happened. They might have been frightened and all of them retreated, leaving me on this island. This was an island without any special features. It was far from the mainland and deviated from the sea route. Basically, no ships passed by here. One day, I found the surveillance cameras on the island. I finally understood that everything back then was just a game they played. I lived here for more than 10 years. I met a group of busy sailing enthusiasts and went out. After I went out, I regained control of my funds and began to investigate their whereabouts. I found out all their information and finally gathered them here before the anniversary of our 20-year classmate. Then, I killed them one by one. At that time, an outsider came. Because of his accident, one of them ran away. However, even if she ran away, she wouldn't have peace for the rest of her life. Many people chased after me. After the matter was settled, I didn't think about living at all and jumped into the sea. I didn't expect to come back. The time I returned was very unsatisfactory. It was actually 2 days after I lost the most important person to me. If it had been 2 days earlier, the outcome would have been different. I was very angry and resentful. I started to set up this island with hatred for the entire class. The last time, I was in too much of a hurry and didn't let them feel too much fear. I wanted to make a more perfect plan and let them die in fear. The plan that I thought was perfect kept having accidents. More than half a month had passed, and everyone was still alive. I also didn't expect that someone would help us when we were trapped in the room. Of course, this is not enough to convince me to leave this island. Mu Xiaoning's eyes lit up. Now I know that being reborn wasn't a form of torture for me. It was to come back and meet you. If you want to go out, I'll immediately send a signal to the people outside. Forget about all the plans. Let's go out. Mu Xiaoning wasn't acting on impulse. Instead, he had grasped onto a ray of light, the only ray of light in his 2 lives. He didn't want to give it up. This was his only chance. Wouldn't it be a pity to give up after such a long time? Don't you feel unreconciled? Mu Xiaoning replied, they're not important anymore. He wanted to be a clean person and not have the smell of blood on him. Only then could he stand by her side. Why don't we wait for a while? There are still some people who are asking for a beating. Why don't we drag them out every night and beat them up to vent our anger? How about that? Tanguo suggested, you're satisfied with your revenge, but I didn't do anything. I'm still angry, especially that Du Li. If I don't beat him up a few more times, I'll feel a little unsatisfied. In order to stop you from going astray, I didn't even have time to beat them up. Mu Xiaoning was stunned. Was she admitting that she was the same as him? You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.